as we did this at the 2-month marker, now there's hard bumps. And when the hard bumps are lanced, they explode with these new creatures. Brand new pictures up on my page to show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Epsom salt, baking soda, and peroxide. 16 ounces of each in a bath every night.
Mm-hmm.
What used to be Vicks deep heating or Vicks vapor rub is now called chest rub or something like that. It's from Walmart. It contains a bunch of key oils for the skin. Band-aids outside with neosporin underneath them and not letting your skin get in contact with sunlight. That's what she's been doing to abate new breakouts. However, the hard bumps now, that's a new battle we have to start with.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But I can give you that information. That's what's worked to stop the current infestation.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm talking over hundreds of people. I shouldn't do that. I apologize.
Let me check. There, I don't know if the program says who is there. I just see 7 people right now. I mean, it's here really very early.
They better jump to life, or I'm gonna hit the boards and spam every damn droop real quick. I'll make it viral in about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do.
Okay.
7.
Yeah. A quick question. I don't know yet when Russ Tanner has time, because I wanna talk again, about the chemtrails, because many people they may have missed the other chemtrail programs. So I don't know, what is your availability to be online? I mean, I'm 24 hours. I mean.
I'm gonna call him right now and ask.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We even can start right now talking about this. Anyway, I will record everything here on this live stream and upload it to YouTube, so people, if I mean, it's early here in the morning and maybe many people are there sleeping because they have to work tomorrow, but when all this is on YouTube, they can watch it again. So
Smart.
So
Good.
anyway, we can talk if he has time. He's
let me modify. I saved his number weird. Let me fix that real quick. It's missing a digit.
Okay.
Hold on. On the 17th, we're going to be on Gorilla Radio, which is part of Freedomizer Radio.
Okay.
Clifford Carnicom, I just finished confirming with him and Russ to go on. I may or may not attend that interview. I don't know yet. They're going to cover Morgellons and, of course, geoengineering and their lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Lots going on. Right, let me see if I can get this to work.
Yep.
I loaded Russ's fax line, which was a mistake. Let me also message him. Nope. The 3. Almost. I'm smartphone retarded. Smart. These people, I hope more people show up on here. We certainly did push your project here. I know people are coming.
I see here we have 6 people watching. 6 people.
Okay.
7 people. Hello, 7 people around the world. Welcome.
Let me see if I can
see that here.
There. second. Let me now find his number up higher on the message string again because I screwed
Okay.
up. Russ has an infinite amount of knowledge about. Oh, that's it. Okay, he has an immense amount of knowledge about mercury,
Hmm.
more in fact than he does on chemtrails. And mercury is another hot topic. Mercury poisoning a lot of the people. I have ringing in my ears since February 3rd, nonstop, 24 hours a day.
Oh my God.
I attribute it to the geoengineering. He tells me it's the mercury fillings I have, the amalgam fillings.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
lots to learn.
What I have in my head is like a frequency. You know, it's really day and night. I don't know what is that.
Do you remember the sounds of the old television sets back in the 70s?
Yes.
That singing sound that you would get from the tubes?
Exactly.
That's a level of 3 for me. What I hear is a 10.
Oh my God. That's too much.
With the windows down, engine on, traffic and radio, if I think about it, I hear it over everything.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I hear when I wake up, the last thing I hear when I go to bed. The only place that I did not hear that ringing for a week was when I went to Hawaii.
Okay. So that means.
I landed in Los Angeles and again.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. And they geoengineered the shit out of Hawaii.
Yeah.
They sprayed it lower.
Yeah. I mean, they're using the taxes from the people to do something what we not even allowed. You know, I mean that they have to ask us first when what to spend all that money, because that is $1 billion thing. I mean, this is not a game, not even a game. Playing with nature, you know, because if you are modified nature cures itself. We don't have to mess with the mother nature.
No, and they use the loopholes that if the public doesn't exercise their rights, they have no rights.
Yeah.
They don't deserve them. There's just a strange maritime law. Disgusting.
Yeah.
I apologize. There's him and I message every couple hours. It seems like got to fish for his number here. I got it myself. Weird.
Yeah. Do you have Russ Tanner's Skype?
I never use Skype. I probably do. Let me see.
Because I can check out if he's there, and when he's there.
Go ahead. If you have access, go ahead.
Okay.
Because you're on full screen now. I can't even change that. I'm retarded with this.
Okay. He's not connected yet. I mean, we have a 24 hours time to talk with him also.
Oh, I'll find it. I just I keep notes of everything. So
yeah.
Except this conversation so far, but I will. I notate everything. Because with what I do online here, everybody always says I say something when I don't. I have to go back and reference what was said for real. People love to make up stories. Okay. I believe it's supposed to have a 3 on mine. His Skype name is Russ.tan.
Right.
RUS.TAN. Is that what you have, Hans?
Yeah, this is.
Oh, that's from you.
Yes.
I told you I'm not good at Skype.
Don't worry. For me, many years ago, it was also the first time.
Yeah, I want to go back to the cell phones that look like briefcases, you know?
Yeah.
Big rubber antennas and the pagers.
It took me years to accept cell phones, because in the past they were so big, like a stone, and I was just happy with my beeper, you know, the little beepers. That were the best times, you know.
Oh yeah, I used to go to the mall and sit there with the entire thing open. I wouldn't even be on the phone for real. I'd just be playing.
Yeah.
So, how's that for lame?
Yeah.
But that's I Yeah, I'm getting it. Hold on. 6 on a 4. I never have trouble reaching him. Are you ready for 24 hours?
Ready, ready, ready. This is my work, you know, and I love it. I mean, I don't get paid. I also want to tell the people who are watching this, if they think I have sponsors or something. No, no, I do that from my heart because, you know, I was a sinner all my life. I mean, a sinner, a consumer, not thinking about the future, just spending money in every stupid things in fashion, going to drink and party and that. But then when I really woke up of all this life, because I mean you live once, nobody knows what happened when you're dead, you know. So when I really saw that the world has also problems, it's not just that we are living here and working. I mean, there's so much things going wrong on Earth. And then when I researched it and everything, I thought if I can do something, I will do something, because it's also my world, and for the people who live later, for the new children, new generations, whatever, they have right to be better. And if I can do something,
Yeah.
I do it, and I don't not even want money for that. You know, I do it because I feel that I have to do it. Before I die,
Yep.
I want to leave something positive on this world. You know.
It's a calling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get the most out of what I do for free here than I do with my real life work.
Hmm.
Oh, Russ. Russ? Oh, hey, Rob. Realizing it's late there, I'm on the Skype with Hans right now, and there's so far a handful, several people on, many people, and he wants to talk to you and see if you had some time. Are you up for a little Skype with Hans? Okay, great. Um, you can use the Project Lights Out link. I'm sure I've spammed your page with it already, just or somewhere. Just pick a page; it's probably on it. And we'll meet you on there if you would, sir. If you want to ask some cool questions, get the Russ Tanner spin on things. Okay, that's right, the Russ Tanner spin, and I don't mean standing naked with a sign spinning anything down below either. I tried that. I just tried that. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. All right. I got Clifford. I got Clifford. I got Clifford confirmed for that 17th. So we're ready. Okay.
La nueva botella de Pepsi está rifadísima. Tanto que a 5 de cada 7 los enloquece.
Okay, well, he may not answer you. He doesn't like using the email or anything. So, but Kate Williams is really close to him. She works with him. If you get her on the horn, she'll get him immediately. She works with him. She's volunteering. You know her. Yep. Yep. 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Pacific. Okay, and yeah, which is midnight your time, I guess. You'll be wide awake. Yeah. Okay. He's coming. Hans, he's coming.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, you'll be ready for lunch. Yeah, and I'm contemplating
Uh-huh.
2 hours with you guys. I'm not sure. I'll catch you guys first. I'll talk to you in private. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right.
Okay. Maybe
We're all very close. Thankfully.
yes. No, so great to meet you. I mean, I was following you also a lot on your Facebook, and saw your videos and your publications on Facebook, and you do also a great job, you know.
I'm out of my mind.
That's what the people also think of me.
That's okay. Even if there's some shock value in there here and there, it does ring a bell later. They come
Yeah.
back around and ask questions, so that's how I know I'm hitting home. You know, and you too. You have the same thing. You know, topics. Some topics people just don't grab. It comes around later, and you realize, damn, you know, there's something to that.
Exactly. I mean, I by myself, I also it took some time that I believed everything what I'm publishing now. You know, I mean, like I told you, when I saw the first chemtrail pictures on YouTube, I thought, what is this? What are they doing? Filming planes? They're always there. But then I asked myself, and I still have a good memory how skies looked many years ago. You know, I'm 47 years old, and
I'm 46.
almost the same age.
Yeah.
So I will tell you a little story. My mother gave me a telescope once for Christmas, and you know, at night you're looking at the moon, at the stars, and at the day, what are you looking at the day? At the houses far away and at the planes. So I really remember how everything looked in the past, the sky, the color of the sky, and it's totally changed. It's not the same anymore.
No.
You know. So,
nope. And one thing that a lot of the trails are non-toxic, actually. Russ will explain that a little better.
Yep.
But a lot of the trails, my ideas, like 80% of them are actually inert. So, but that 20%, let's say, hypothetically, is very toxic, and that's the damaging. So, and people keep using the word chemtrail. They ask somebody in authority, then they say there's no such thing. You must not use the word chemtrail. You know, is allegedly in one document the government still be geoengineering, weather modification, stratospheric modification. Yeah, they use one method here. They use silver iodide. I think that's done with flares at about 40,000 feet. That comes down, creates like a mist, a fog, whatever, lingers. And then the regular aircraft will fly through that, and the molecular bond to this crystalline form of silver iodide, it bonds perfectly with water or the vapor from the jets, the contrail, and it becomes a persistent contrail. Now, are there chemicals in all those contrails? No, but it is for reflecting sun back, and then other purposes for Fox and Monsanto, and this is the labyrinth. But the sunlight does bounce back, but the convective energy goes through, hits the Earth, bounces back up, and gets trapped under that layer and creates a greenhouse effect and heats the planet. So we're trying to stop global warming. Well, you're global dimming, you know, but it's more than that. I think this Morgellons comes from that too.
I think everything is connected, you know. I mean,
it is connected. Although that's my opinion.
Yeah, because also all those things we don't get any official responses, you know, because there are thousands of people asking or uploading videos to YouTube, but there's not even one which says actually for what is it, you know. So until I don't get here proofs that is something good or that is not harmful for anyone, I'm still against it, because I mean, they are hiding something, and when people are hiding something, then that is really bad, you know.
Have you seen the document, not documentary, but document that says Owning the Weather in 2025?
Owning the Weather
2025. Look that up when you find it.
Okay.
And that is a nice resource to show the government's intent. It's not a quick read. It's definitely something you'll have to download the file or PDF most likely. We may have it in our document section for your convenience. But yeah, our attorney did get a letter back from NOAA, but DOD ignored him. So, but we're going to shift and take a different approach. Can't really talk about that part, but Russ, I just saw Russ's name pop up, so he is somewhere fumbling with his camera, I think. Do you see him?
Let me see if I see him on Skype yet. Let me check it out. Russ, yeah, he's there. I'm here, he says.
Hi, Russ.
Okay, let me bring him in here. Oh. Okay, let me. Okay. Okay. 1 second here. Russ Tenor. One second here. Okay. Russ Tenor. Where's Russ? Russ. Okay. Okay, let's.
Oh, hey there, Russ.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Very fine. Welcome.
Hans, are you sleepy yet?
Oh, I just began the live stream, the 24-hour one, you know.
Yeah.
You're
Oh.
blacked out, Russ. There you
How's
go.
that?
That's
Better?
very sexy.
Okay. Nice to see you too.
Yes. Congratulations, Hans, on your show. I hope you get hundreds and hundreds of visitors.
Yeah, with the time I hope so. I mean, it's still very early in the morning. Many people have to work. But I told them already, if they want to join the 24-hour live stream, they can do it much later. And I don't go away, you know, I don't even put myself offline. I will be 24 hours here for everybody. And all that what we are talking now, it's recorded. And it will be uploaded, you know, like always on my YouTube channel. So for people who really don't have time now, they can watch it later. So yeah, we will have a lot of viewers anyway.
Excellent.
We certainly advertised on your behalf. More ways than one. It got around. You saw that 249. I added about 900 invites. I don't know where they're at. Yeah, 900 of those are mine. But so people know. I can see a bunch. 249 are going that I can see. So Hans was curious, wanted to ask some geoengineering stuff. I don't know how you want to use your time or when you want to do that, Russ, but he's recording this for YouTube upload too. So if you're not just speaking to a focus group.
Yeah, sure. I'm on. This is my lunchtime, so
Russ, guess what? I'm very sick today, not just today, the whole week, and it started after a heavy chemtrail spraying here in Mexico City. You know, it was Sunday, 2nd of December, I guess. And then from Monday it started little by little, you know, first a little bit like a flu, then with cough and everything, you know. I mean, and then I went to the pharmacy here to buy some medicine, and I asked the seller in the pharmacy, and she told me there, because I wanted to know if I'm the only one now or if she has a lot of clients, and she told me there are a lot of sick people right now, and I don't know if it's really from the chemtrails or is it the traditional flu, but I guess it's from the chemtrail because it started from that day on here. How is it in your country?
Go ahead, Russ. I was going to mention the emergency room wait times, but you got that right.
No, why don't you go ahead? Go ahead. I am not on that right now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Hans, you can tie this in a little bit by calling the emergency rooms. Just call when they're not spraying. If they don't spray the next day, call again. And the wait time should be about 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And after a spray day, continue calling, and the wait times will accelerate to over 3 hours. Upper respiratory infections. So the almost like a speedometer would be on a car is the emergency room to the spray program.
Oh my God! In which times we are living?
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
But Russ has far deeper research on this stuff than I do. I believe I know what Russ has up. He wrote it, so he can talk about it.
Hey Hans, are you streaming live on Ustream right now?
I'm 24 hours now live streaming. You're live, and in fact, I will put my microphone down when you guys are talking to avoid some echo effects here. So, yeah, you're live, Russ.
Okay, I was just asking because I'm looking at your channel on Ustream and it's not showing anything.
Should show. I will put you here in the chat box the right link. I don't know if you got the right link.
Okay.
And it should be there. You know, I have another computer on my other side just to watch if there's really the thing, the live stream going on, and we are live. I can see us.
I'm opening it. I didn't quite get all the kind of a novice at that, so I had a hard time. I just figured I'd open Skype and find you. I'm opening Ustream right now, your channel, and it is on a advertisement banner. I guess I hit skip.
Yeah.
To skip this ad, type in here. Why?
You know, this is not a professional account on livestream. It's the free one, because the professional one is very expensive for me. And they put ads, you know, it's like everything which is for free, they are putting advertisements all the time. But the recording is without commercials, of course. So also, okay. Well, what I'm doing, I put everything on mute from the live stream channel, because
I just did it.
exactly to don't get distracted.
He's up, Russ. I see him.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I actually there's another channel on Ustream that's called Project Lights, but it has a space between each word.
Exactly.
And that's the one I was looking at. So when I looked at the URL you typed in the chat here, I changed it to that, and now I see you. So it looks like somebody else has got the same name you do.
It's me. It's my backup channel, just in case if I'm getting hacked today. So I will switch to the other one. You know.
Oh, the genius at work. That's what I'm talking about. Man, you're gonna outsmart the CIA and the NSA. You've got them all picked off. That's great.
Exactly. I even downloaded a program with the IP switcher and everything, so if they get me,
man,
I will just switch, have a break for 1 minute, and then go live again. So today nobody will stop us, you know.
Nobody's gonna stop us.
Cheers to
Now
the
we need
CIA.
a big black building in the middle of Colorado or something like that. Well, great. Well, hey, you wanted to talk about geoengineering, and you know you're sick. You know, funny thing, everybody's sick from all the feedback I'm getting. Now, I'm one of these weird guys, and I've told a lot of people this, and I hope people don't get tired of hearing it, but I can smell and taste chemtrails.
Keep saying
and I don't mean a little bit. I taste them so strongly, and of course they go up and down. We'll get hit by a plume, and it'll go up in about 60 seconds. It'll go from mild air, where I can just taste it a little bit, to so intense that it's nauseating. And then only 60 seconds. Sometimes it'll take about 2 minutes to get to full intensity, but usually it's about a minute. And then it'll slowly decrease in intensity over the next 45 to 60 minutes. And they just do that all day long. Goes up and then it fades down, goes up and fades down. Now, in the mid evenings, the way it's been lately here is, between about 4 o'clock and 6, it's much milder. It's like they're not spraying here, maybe way off in the distance, so the air stays a little milder. Then after dark, of course it gets dark here early in Maine, but at this time of year, at night the intensity just increases. They start piling it on, and they change the type. The type they've been spraying during the daytime is usually what I call the iron type. And I call it the iron type because it actually tastes like rust a little bit. Tastes like rusty water from an old rusty well. And then at nighttime they switch. What they've been doing now for probably 6 months. I should write this down so I can keep a perfect log, but I just try to keep it in my head. I think it was they made the big change in April, late May. I believe it was the last few days of May. At nighttime, they started spraying a combination of 3. One of them is the acetone type, which actually tastes like acetone, smells like acetone.
Nasty.
The other type, the other type I call the metallic chemical type. This type makes my blood pressure soar. The veins in my hands actually get so hard, they pop out of my skin. It looks like I'm in the middle of a workout. I mean, and I can feel the pressure in my whole body. And then the third type that they have mixed in is the what I call the swamp water. And swamp water actually tastes like a combination of algae and mushrooms to me. It's like, and the reason I know, I mean, I remember tastes. That's one of the things in my lifetime. I remember odors and tastes. I'm what they call a foodie. I like to go out and have a good meal. Food, F-O-O-D-I-E, or Y, I don't know how they spell it, but I saw it on TV. They call us foodies because we love a good meal because the flavors are incredible, if it's a good meal. And it's the same thing with these chemtrails, is you remember those tastes and you remember those scents. And the reason why everybody's sick, to me it's no surprise. I know when everybody's going to get sick, because they start really spraying the swamp water real hard. Now the swamp water type chemtrail they started spraying in 2010. It's the very first chemtrail they started spraying on a daily basis at high altitudes. And I know it was a high altitudes because I could see them. Suddenly they all switched to high altitude. Not all the jets, I mean, but the ones that were spraying the swamp water. And if you were to graph the intensity, instead of going up in 60 to 120 seconds and slowly declining, it stayed at an intensity of a more mild intensity, and it was like a real slow sine wave. It would slowly increase to about 20-25% intensity, and then it would decrease down to about 10% after a couple hours and then increase. So what that told me is that as the plume was descending, of course from high altitudes it's going to take a lot longer to descend, but while it's descending, instead of the edge of that plume being really compact so that the intensity rises quickly as it descends, that edge diffused and became much wider, so that as the intensity increases, it was much slower increase. And so immediately I said, this must be high altitude. So of course I went out and did a lot of observation, and of course all of a sudden we saw high altitude jets in 2010 spraying. This was in April of 2010. They started spraying the high intensity swamp water. But what they've been doing for the last I don't know, week or two, is they've been spraying swamp water at low intensity in the early mornings, early part of the afternoon, in some of the nights. They spray it at low intensity, so instead of the swamp water being slowly going up and down from about 10 to 25% intensity, it goes up real sharply, just like the other types do. In about 60 to 120 seconds, it'll rise up to full intensity, and then over 45 to 60 minutes, it'll decline in intensity. And when they start spraying the swamp water at low altitudes, everybody in the area gets sick. So right now, everybody here, and I don't mean literally everybody, but most of the people I know, majority of them have some kind of sore throat. I woke up, the first day they started doing it, I had a sore throat, and I started taking my immune stimulator, which I keep right here on my desk.
What is it?
This is incredible. This is actually a combination of shiitake and maitake mushrooms extracts, and it's in little capsules, And I take 4 of these every. If I feel that sore throat when they hit us with that swamp water, I'll take these first thing in the morning. Take 4 of them. A couple hours later, I'll take 4 more. By the time I take my second dose, the sore throat's about half intensity. By the couple hours after my second dose, it's gone. And
Really?
it's yes, it stimulates the maitake and shiitake mushroom extract, stimulates the immune system like nothing I've ever experienced. In fact, I've probably had, second only to colloidal silver, I've had more people convert and become believer in the power of herbs by this single product than any other product. It's called Immune Stimulator. It's made by Nature's Sunshine. Awesome stuff. I don't want to.
Could you put that in my inbox so I can create some sort of document to pass around for, you know how that goes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Facebook mean or.
Yeah, just Facebook inbox. I'll make a document, spread it, and that pushes your page and Hans, everybody. I can make something.
Sure.
Yep.
All right.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that stuff is incredible. So, don't mean to go on and on, but I know, Hans, you got that cough, you feel the flu symptoms. That's, in my opinion, and of course I have to tell everyone I'm not a doctor. I don't treat, diagnose, cure, or prescribe, treat, diagnose, or cure symptoms, conditions, or diseases, and I don't prescribe medication. I'm not a doctor. I never will be, never was. I just share my own personal experiences and research. In my experience, when they spray that swamp water, everybody starts getting sick. By the 3rd day they spray it, a lot of times they do it for about a week. And by the end of the 3rd day, a lot of people getting sick. By the end of the week, everybody's sick. The pediatrician's office is backed up for 3 weeks. You know, you can't get your child in. Everybody's sick in the schools. So
this
yeah.
this business card you gave me that says Dr. Russ, you're not a doctor?
He's funny. That's right. No,
Sorry.
I don't.
Al's not here to pick on.
Rob's a kidder. I know. You need someone to pick on, don't you?
No.
You yeah, we're on to you, Robert. Yeah. But
Well, I
anyway,
better shift gears then.
well, that's my experience with the swamp water type, and that's the type that makes everyone sick. But I also say this: there's 2 other types that suppress the immune system really badly. The iron type, that's the one that tastes to me like a rusty pipe. And I personally believe, based on my research on barium and the way it affects my body, I think the iron type is actually very heavy in barium. That's my personal opinion at this point. I have no science to back that up. That's just me looking at my symptoms, reading what barium does to the human body, and finding correlation. That's why I kind of hypothesized that the iron type is probably mostly barium. The other type that is really immunosuppressive is what I call the acetone type. It smells like fingernail polish remover. Now this is really, really fascinating to me, and nobody else is talking about this, and I think this is one of the biggest parts of chemtrails, the most important things, is I personally believe symptomatically, and I'll tell you why in a second, that the acetone type chemtrail and another one called the blunt metallic type chemtrail, both, I think that they may very well contain mercury, and I'll tell you why. I had mercury. Well, first of all, mainstream media has been reporting for years now, for several years. If you go and you look online, you can find them, although a lot of the articles have actually been wiped out now. But they have been claiming that the mercury levels in soils have been dramatically increasing across the United States. Now let me find this article here real quick, so I can give you some, make sure my information, I can give you some details about the information. Let me look it up here. I had mercury poisoning because I had amalgam fillings most of my life. I had them removed in 2000, and I was very meticulous about documenting my symptoms. I searched for 5 years for what was wrong with me. A wonderful friend of mine named Amy told me right to my face. She goes, "You have mercury poisoning." I'm like,
No.
how do you know that? She said, well, I had a mouthful of fillings. I became so sick I was bedridden she couldn't work. She went to doctors for 5 years, tried one pharmaceutical after the other. Nothing worked, nothing helped her. One day she went online, started researching, and found all the stuff about mercury and how it causes fibromyalgia. So she didn't have a lot of money, but she had a few of her fillings removed, felt good enough after she had her fillings removed to get up and go to work. And then she did more research and realized that she was mercury toxic. So she told me about this. So in 2000, I finally discovered, thanks to Amy, thank you, Amy, that I had mercury poisoning, had my fillings removed, and 85% of my 17 symptoms vanished in 24 hours. Candida, pain, all kinds of things. I can list them later, I guess. Vanished in 24 hours. The remaining 15% took about 6 months to go away. I had lifelong depression. In high school, I was so depressed that I cried myself to sleep. I'm sorry to say it's very embarrassing and humbling to say this, but you know what? I want to say this because I hope it'll help people. I really don't care how foolish or stupid I look. We all have our problems in life, and I certainly had mine. And, I was so depressed, I cried myself to sleep 3 to 4 times a week throughout my senior year of high school, and I thought everybody was like that. I would sometimes say people, when I had friends say, oh, man, how many times were you depressed this week or whatever? Until I learned later on that that's not the way everybody was. And so my emotional aspect of mercury poisoning got worse and worse until in 2000 I discovered what it is thanks to Amy. Have removed my depression, my short-term memory issues. 85%
La
of
nueva
my
botella de
physical issues
Pepsi
were
está
overnight. Within the next 6
rifadísima.
months, my
Tanto
memory was better than it had ever been. My depression was absolutely gone. I felt like Superman. I had fears and phobias, fears of confrontation. I had fears of fears of heights, fears of stuff, public speaking. And within 6 months, I was like, confrontation, bring it on. I was just a changed person. It was like Superman. All I can say was like I was being born for the first time in my life. It was like my eyes were open and I was in the world making decisions and functioning. I'm like, this is how life is supposed to be. Because I always ask myself, why am I this guy who just can't publicly speak? I can't remember things. I can't excel the way that I really want to. What's wrong with me? And I just spent my teenage years and my 20s through my 30s. I was 35 when I in 2000, until I finally found out it was mercury. Mercury ruined my life. I was single. I'd never been married. Didn't have the self-esteem for a relationship, even though I could have been married. I had many relationships that could have been successful, but I copped out of them, and so I ended up single. All this stuff went away in 6 months, and I felt like Superman. Well, I'm sorry I'm going so long, but Cons knows I do this.
Hey. It's got 24 hours. It's all right.
I'll talk real slow. No. So what happened? The reason why I believe this is what I'm getting to. This is why I believe that the acetone type and the blunt metallic type contain mercury is that I have a long, extensive experience with mercury. I spent 5 years studying and learning about herbs and nutritional supplements to try to combat all of these symptoms I had, and I did quite successfully. I kept myself alive and functional during 5 years using herbs and supplements. And so I'm very, very familiar with the specifics, how mercury works, what it does to your body. I've read about this. This is my favorite subject because I've become convinced that it's the single most common cause of disease in the world today. That's a big statement, but when you study it, even Dr. Hal Huggins in a video I have on my website says mercury causes 200 diseases. He was being interviewed, and so you're saying mercury causes 100 diseases. He's like, no, I'm saying it causes 200 diseases. And I agree with him 100% because he's very studied. Hal Huggins wrote some great books on mercury toxicity, and I recommend them. So now that I'm very familiar with mercury toxicity, I'll give you a couple reasons why I believe the acetone type and the blunt metallic type, these are named for their flavors. That's how I name chemtrails, not for what they contain, but for how they taste and smell. One symptom I have from those two chemtrail types is my skin becomes oily. Okay, here I'm being humble again, right? My skin without mercury is fine. I don't have any, I'm very healthy, very strong person. Don't have any health issues at all during that 5 years between 2000 and 2005 when I had no mercury exposure and no chemtrail exposure. I was very strong, played racquetball in the hot Florida sun every afternoon and loved it. Did some cycling, weight lifted, just very, I love to be athletic, love to be physical. And, but one of the symptoms that I do have when mercury occurs is I get oily skin. And it comes on me very quickly. I mean, within an hour, it's just like I could go wash my face. And this is a very specific mercury symptom because mercury raises dihydrotestosterone in your body. Dihydrotestosterone is a testosterone precursor, meaning that dihydrotestosterone is used to make testosterone. Now, what happens with people like me, with high testosterone people, is they are particularly subject to mercury poisoning. And this explains why 3 out of 4 children with autism are high testosterone. This is the reason why, because high testosterone, to make a long story short, blocks the methylation of B12. I'll just run through the chemical stuff for anybody who's interested. It blocks the methylation of B12. B12 is called cobalamin. When you block the methylation, your body's supposed to make methylcobalamin, so it methylates the B12, and then it takes a chemical in your body called homocysteine. Homocysteine is a sulfur-bearing molecule that if the homocysteine gets too high in your body, you can have high cholesterol, you can have heart problems. Any doctor knows this. Doctors don't know a lot of the information I'm telling you because they're not trained about this, but they do know about homocysteine. Now, those high testosterone people, children, adults, don't methylate the B12, and they can't process the homocysteine, and therefore their body is hindered from making glutathione. Glutathione is your body's primary method of removing heavy metals from the body, especially mercury. So that explains why high testosterone children are 75%, 4 times more prone to autism, ADD, ADHD than other children are. So when dihydrotestosterone increases in your body because of mercury, and it happens quickly, you breathe in the mercury vapor and your body starts, your DHT goes up, my skin becomes oily. That's one indicative sign of mercury poisoning. That's just one in a list. That's one of the many reasons that I believe that that those two chemtrail types contain mercury. And to go on to talk about, I was talking about before, and I had to look something up here on the web, that all of these mainstream news articles were talking about mercury increasing in the soils across the United States. This has been going on for years. And they always blamed it on Chinese coal-burning power plants, because coal-burning power plants release a lot of heavy metals. It's a simple thing to lower. Well, I couldn't get it. They can do a lot about that, and they don't. And I believe that's all by design. But they were blaming it on Chinese coal-burning power plants. Well, let's see. In this interview, okay, Rosalind Peterson's interview, she's a certified USDA Farm Service Agency crop loss adjuster. She exposes the fact that the California Air Quality Resources Board, CAQRB, has determined that these metals are not from China and probably not even from power plants. This is also mentioned in a video on the globalskywatch.com forum called The Illuminization of Our Soils. Dane Wigington also talks about this. So the question is, if all this mercury is not coming from China, and not coming from coal-burning power plants, where the heck is it coming from? So these are just two, and I could go. I hate talking so much. I feel self-conscious, but these are just two of the indicators to me, and there are many more, that these two chemtrail types contain mercury, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit, and I'll tell you why. Because the pharmaceutical industry has made billions, hundreds of billions of dollars over decades treating diseases that are caused by mercury, whether it's arthritis, depression, Alzheimer's, ADD, ADHD, autism, a myriad of other diseases, even things like constipation, muscle cramps, headaches, migraines, farsightedness, nearsightedness, because mercury changed the interocular pressure in your eye. And I could go on. I have a list of probably 200 of the very common diseases.
Is retinitis? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Is Please remember where you're at. Is retinitis? Are you familiar with what that is?
Yes.
I get that every I've had 3 attacks of it. They said the next time I go blind in one eye.
I'm very sorry to hear that. That's horrible.
Does that have to do with the geoengineering, do you think? The metals?
I personally think it can. I don't have... The unfortunate thing for me is that when I first started researching mercury in the beginning for several years, I did it for myself, and I didn't keep the studies, I didn't keep the notes and the references. Only more recently have I done that. So there's a lot of information and facts and figures I actually found in medical studies, found on PubMed and other places where a lot of people do research, but I can't reference them, so it's very frustrating. But I did remember what the facts are, mercury causes this, but I don't remember why or what the mechanism is, unfortunately. But I'm starting to collect those over again now and put them online so people can see it. So personally, I think that it does. One other indicator, and I said there's a whole list of things why I believe it, is that when we were sprayed back in 2008 and 2009, we were sprayed with one of the chemtrail types that was real heavy in mercury, and they did it continuously. Well, by that I mean daily, on a daily basis, because they switch the schedules a lot, and so sometimes they won't do a particular type for several weeks or even a few months, and then they'll start doing it again, and they'll work it into the schedule, and it'll go for 3 months or 6 months. Then they'll switch the schedule again, and it'll go off that type. So a lot of things change and a lot of fluctuations, but it is on a schedule. If you can taste and smell it, you can taste and smell the schedule. Well, back in 2009 particularly, when we were getting hit really hard, this is when I initially called the Maine Bureau of Air Quality for the first time, if I remember correctly, and talked to my first person there. I was losing hair. Well, guess what? Hair loss is a symptom of dihydrotestosterone elevation. That's why you have these stereotypical characters in movies. You have these big guys who are really muscular, might be kind of hairy. They've got bald heads, They always look a little wet and greasy, and they've got bad tempers. Well, where does this stereotype come from? This stereotype comes from dihydrotestosterone, because dihydrotestosterone can make you aggressive. It can make you, this is why mercury causes all these things. Fits of anger, increases your muscle size. I mean, some people have taken testosterone injections to bulk up, but if you have mercury toxicity and your DHT rises, therefore your testosterone rises, you become aggressive. You can have fits of rage if you have too much of it, or you don't have that under control. One of the things, you start losing hair. You're a more aggressive personality. And so mercury can fundamentally change your personality, not just for the DHT reason, but for many other reasons. But I started having hair loss real bad between 1995 and the year 2000, I was kind of getting a little freaked out by the amount of hair loss I was having because I've, you know, well, I wasn't really mentally prepared to go bald, and I didn't know what was going on. When my fillings were removed, the hair loss stopped immediately. There was no more loss of hair. So from
Really?
2000, yes, from 2000 to 2005, there was no hair loss whatsoever. Then the hair loss slowly started a little bit in 2005 when they started spraying us. I lived in Jamestown, New York at the time. And when it got really bad, which it did quite quickly in Jamestown, my hair loss became accelerated again to the point where it's probably 30 to 50% the hair loss rate that I had between 1995 and 2000. And so once again, I was like, you know, what can I, you know, very frustrated about this, obviously. And that's another one of the many reasons that I believe that those two chemtrail types must contain mercury because of their specific causing of mercury-specific symptoms. Now, it could be that there are some other metals or some other substance that have these effects, but I made a page on my chemtrail story. It's the longest web page ever made in my life. It's just, if you printed it out, it'd probably be about 30 pages or 40 pages long. But I gave a synopsis of
La
every
nueva
single
botella de
mercury
Pepsi es
symptom I
una
had when I
chulada.
was mercury toxic, and every single chemtrail symptom I had, and put them in a single section, and they line up one for one for one,
Really?
exactly the same, with just a few exceptions. That there are few chemtrail symptoms that were not mercury symptoms, but every single mercury symptom I had is a chemtrail symptom. So the mercury symptoms is a subset of the chemtrail symptoms. They're only very, very different in just a few items where the chemtrails cause a couple extra symptoms than the chemtrails cause a few extra symptoms than the mercury did. So there you have it. That's what I think, that mercury suppresses the immune system. Barium suppresses the immune system. Now forget mercury. Mercury is an immune suppressant, but so is barium, and so is aluminum. Aluminum, for instance, suppresses the white cell phagocytosis, which is when you see those videos of the white blood cells gobbling up particles, they encircle them. Aluminum, that's one of the immunosuppressive effects of aluminum. So you have a bad combination, is that if you have these swamp water chemtrail types that to me taste like algae and mushrooms, and I know what algae and mushrooms taste like, that to me...
And push-ups in that kind of water in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. I believe that the swamp water chemtrail type must contain some kind of bacteria, virus, molds, or mildew spores or mycoplasma, or mycoplasma. I personally believe that. There's a whole another set of reasons I can go into why, because that's another story, but I very strongly believe that it does that. And they spray, usually when they spray, almost always when they spray the swamp water during the nighttime, they will spray another type that's very immunosuppressive. So they're combining the immunosuppression with the actual biological agents at the same time, and what happens? Everybody gets sick.
Could the geoengineering be bringing viruses that have a scent, or biological components that have a scent from that altitude, bringing it down? I know that stuff breeds at a high altitude. Is that not right?
Well, I don't know about it. I don't know about it breeding at a high altitude. It's not something I've ever studied or looked into.
I may be saying the wrong word, but it exists at a high altitude. There's bio agents or viruses that reside at a high altitude for whatever reason. I'm not a climatologist, but I'm wondering if some of those smells could be that. But you answered my question.
Yeah, well, the thing that convinces me that the swamp water type contains some kind of biologics, that's the Air Force word, the biologics.
Right.
That's also in Public Law 10585. They use that term, biologics. So funny that the law actually has military terms in it, just for anybody who finds that interesting, but that's another story.
Yeah. I've had chemical and biological weaponry training in the Marine Corps. I'm very familiar with biowarfare, and those smells you're describing are familiar.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll tell you what leads me to that conclusion. The first introduction, this happened in 2010. I remember when it happened, because when I first smelled the swamp water chemtrail type, I'll tell you exactly what came to my mind in a second. I knew exactly what it was. And here's what it is. And again, I'm going to make myself look a little weird. It's going to be a little, because I'm a little bit of a weird guy. I'm very sensitive. I think this comes from mercury toxicity, is that I just have sensitive senses. While my sense of smell and taste especially are very hypersensitive. And that might be us. But anyway, so here's my experience with the swamp water. I was going out with a girl back when I worked at Pasco Nano Community College in Pasco County, Florida. I worked at PHCC there for 11 years, worked in the theater, did lighting, sound, was essentially a technical director, although I had a different kind of a mixed, muddled title, because I didn't really know what to call me, but that's what I did, is technical direction work. So when the shows would come in, I would make sure the lighting was set up. They would send me blueprints, and I would set the lights up and hire a crew to come in, and we'd set up lights, set up the sound system, set chairs up. I was the first one there. I was the last one to leave. Did that for 11 years. I loved it and hated it. It was a great learning experience. I dated a girl during that time, and I wrote this little story in an article I wrote a few years ago, that she, one night, all my life I've been able to kind of tell when somebody has a virus or bacteria in their breath, because it has a certain odor to it, and it also burns my sinuses in a very peculiar way. Now there's different kind of burning sensations that you can get. Like if you're at the sea, like I live 3 miles away from the Gulf of Mexico most of my life, and I could smell the water. You could smell the salt in the air, you know, and I could smell it. It was kind of always there in the background. And the closer you get to the sea, the stronger the salty taste and smell is, you know. And then you've got the algae smell and the fishy smell and all those odors that go with the sea. Well, and there's different burns that you get, or I get, in my sinuses, depending on whether it's a salty burn or whether it's a chemical burn, or an ammonia type burn, the different classes of chemicals. But there was one particular type of burn that went along with a flavor and a scent, that when somebody had a respiratory infection or a sore throat, they always had this in their breath. And I knew that since I was a kid, and I kind of, again, never really talked about it, but I figured everybody knew this. Later on I found out that not very many people do know it. But this girl who I was dating, she, one night she had that in her breath. It was real strong. And so I told her, I said, hey, you know what, why don't you just want to say this, I don't want to sound weird, but when you go home, because I was saying bye to her after a show, she used to come to the shows and hang out with me up in the control room with the crew, and it was fun, you know. And so we were saying bye, and I said, hey, just pound some vitamin C when you get home or something, because I think you've got a little, you know, you have a little infection or a little respiratory thing. And she was like, what do you mean respiratory thing? I said, well, there's something going on, you know. And she was, what do you mean? How do you know that? And I'm like, well, it's like a scent thing that I can, you know, it kind of just burns. She goes, are you telling me I have bad breath? I'm like, no, it's not bad breath, you know. So I had painted myself into a corner. She got offended, and she ended up leaving kind of on bad terms. I was trying to explain myself. She's like, no, that's fine, you know, left. And I'm like, my God, you know, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm trying to tell you to, but she thought I was telling her you have bad breath. And I'm like, no, and I never forgot this, because this story just sticks in my mind. Well, the next day I went into work, and there was a piece of paper. You know, I went into work, and I came out to go to lunch. I lived 5 minutes from work, so I would drive home a lot and go have lunch. And there was a piece of paper on my windshield, and I got it, and she wrote this apology letter. She had gone home next morning, woke up with a really bad sore throat.
Uh-huh. Oh, you predicted that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it because all my life, since I was a kid, I just experienced that with people. I figured it was just something everybody did, you know, and come to find out it wasn't. So anyway, that same scent and that taste and that burning sensation, that combination of those three things are exactly the same things that I experienced in 2010 when I first tasted and smelled the swamp water type chemtrails. And so right away I said, this is a biologically based chemtrail. It must be based on my experience. So that's where I came up with that.
Oh.
I got a lot of embarrassing stories to tell, but I think hopefully it'll benefit people that and you know what, I think they've been spraying stuff like that much longer than we've been seeing chemtrails, because you know what, I remember back even before I ever saw chemtrails, years before I saw chemtrails, that occasionally there would be something in the air like that, and then it seemed like people would get sick, you know. Didn't happen that often, you know, but I remembered a few occasions where it had that burning sensation and that flavor. It was kind of in the air. So I'm thinking that they did testing. In fact, 2003 was the first time I remembered seeing chemtrails. If you go to my Facebook page, I have pictures of El Capitan in Yosemite. I do have the park, right? El Capitan's in Yosemite, right? I believe. That's the big rock, big cliff. I was out there back several years ago because we had a convention out there with our business, and we got at the big rock at perfect time. I mean, the sun was setting, and we planned to stay there till after it went down because Mars was right next to the moon, and Mars was brighter than it ever had been for I don't know how many decades or 100 years or whatever. But it was like a once in a lifetime event to see Mars close to the moon and to have it really, really bright. So what I like to do is set up my camera and do like 10 or 15 minute exposures, and it's so cool because when you take the whole cliff and the whole rock and everything, and you do a long exposure under moonlight, it's blue and it's really eerie, and the stars are really bright, and it's really cool. I mean, you get some really cool photographic effects, and I thought they were, you know, I like doing that kind of stuff. So I was out there with my business partner Laura doing this, and you know, as soon as we got out there were all these trails in the sky, and I was like, what is going on here? It was like rockets had been flying everywhere, you know, or an air show, because in air shows they intentionally emit all that smoke, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That night, so Laura and I hung out there for several hours until well after the sun went down, got lots of great photography, and I smelled that smell and taste in the air, and my sinuses were burning, and my throat was getting that soreness in it, and those trails were all over. And you can go on my Facebook page and you can see the pictures I took that night. This was like 2003, I believe it was. And you can see the trails all over the place, just covering the sky. And I was frustrated because it was a beautiful scene, but there was these trails really messed up the scene. You know, it just made it look like you were in the middle of a war zone or something. That night, as we headed out of the park, I got a horrible flu. And I took a lot of herbs and supplements, so I got over it in about 24 hours. But I was so sick that night, and I knew there was something in the air. I just remember that burn and that taste, and it was just like, God, this is weird. And I didn't make the connection. You think that you would make the connection between the trails and the scent and smell, but I didn't even think of that. You know, I was just like, maybe they were. I knew they weren't fireworks because they were much too big to be fireworks, but I was kind of confused by it. Like, what is all this stuff? I've never seen a trail come out of a jet in my life, so I never even considered that jets did this, unless you're at an air show and they do it intentionally.
And you can't always see the trails either, right, Russ?
Well, I know that they changed the trails to be non-persistent. And I even saw, well, that's interesting. I actually saw both in Jamestown and in Bangor, where they're obviously trying to make the trails not noticeable by the public.
Right.
Because in Jamestown, and this was in 2007, maybe, I'm trying to remember, probably 2007, I was going through torture because they were spraying the heck out of that place, and people were sick, and many people had died that I know. Large number of people died the first 3 years of chemtrail spraying that I saw there. So it was, and I knew it was chemtrails because I could smell and taste it. It had ruined my health. I was struggling. I was actually fearing for my life, which is why the next year we moved. I got out of there specifically because of chemtrail spraying. I was forced to move out of that area. In fact, I still have the house there. I didn't even sell the house. I have the relatives staying there. So I saw in Jamestown, I think it was 2007, where all of a sudden one day they stopped spraying for 4 days. Now, of course, they were on a schedule. I could smell and taste it. I knew the schedule. They would come at 3 o'clock. Of course, the schedule did change every 3 to 6 months, but generally speaking, most of the time they would come at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They would spray till 7 or 3, till about 6 or 7. By then, the sky was covered. And they would leave, then they would come back after it was dark and spray us again at 3 in the morning, and then 5 in the morning we get hit real hard, then 7 in the morning we get hit. That schedule, they stayed on that schedule for probably longer than 6 months. That was a very hard time for visitors.
I never noticed schedules. I just started keeping track of that when you mentioned it the other night. Russ, there's a question that was thrown up from the other page that they're viewing us on Ustream, and it was a question Hans posted for you. It states that they have a question for you, Russ. It says, I have seen only on 2 occasions black trails in the sky. Do you know much about it? Is it carbon or carbon black? Personally, I believe those are just the shadow and the lighting, but that's just me. What do you have to say about that, Russ?
I know people
deep, heated arguments about this, where they think that there's a black carbon line and the plane's following the line, and I may be wrong, but I really feel it's a shadow. What do you?
Yeah, I've also had some discussions with people on this online, and I've seen them many times. I've photographed them. Yeah. People have photographed them. I've looked at their pictures online, and some people aren't going to like this, but I have to be honest, like you. And every single picture I've seen, and every time I've seen them live, if you really look at it carefully, they were shadows. And what happens is when they're spraying, it makes the air hazy. And if you have the sun at an angle, let's say behind the trail, and the trail's going like this, and you have the sun back here, let's say, it'll cast a shadow down all the way to the ground, but
yes,
you'll be able to see this dark line. And I've seen, like, if the sun's off at an angle and the trail's going like this, sometimes it'll even look like the dark line goes right in front of the future flight path of the jet.
Yeah, that's interesting anomaly.
Yeah, and it's, if you're standing just the right way and the sun's off at a 45-degree angle, let's say, and you're 45 degrees this way, that shadow cuts through the thick haze, the chemtrail haze, at an angle, and it will really look like that there's a black line in front of the jet. But honestly, I just have to say that every single time that I've seen this happen, and in every picture anybody's shown me, it's pretty easily explainable by shadows. It really looks like shadow. Now, saying all that, I will say this. If you go to an airport and you watch jets, commercial jets, take off and land, and of course, we're not, these chemtrail jets that I've seen and never have been commercial jets with, well, that's, all the jets I see these days are silver unmarked jets. For the first year, they had red tails and red engines. They looked like Virgin Airlines. But I was in a place where you'd never see planes, commercial flights. You would never see them because our Jamestown Airport can't handle big jets. But that's, I can get in that later, I suppose. But if you go to an airport and you watch commercial, 737s or A330s or any of these mid-size or larger size commercial jets, you'll see a black soot that comes out of the engine. And this is just the stuff that kind of is emitted. I see it all the time. I drive past. That's right. When you burn kerosene, you burn jet fuel, or you even have a kerosene lamp, you're going to have that black soot effect that comes off. Or if you have a lamp and it's sitting in the same place for a long time, you'll have it accumulate up on the wall or up on your ceiling. But you'll see this black stuff come out of the engines. So that's just chemistry. That's just the way they work. And but that really, I think, has nothing to do with the lines that we see.
No.
In every instance I've seen them, they were shadows. And so
Russ, what was your website again, Russ, for anybody that might not know it yet?
globalskywatch.com.
That's right. And for me, it's Chemtrail Geoengineering Lawsuit on Facebook. And Russ also is involved in a lawsuit they're setting up and planning their approach. Is that right?
Yes. We're exploring the processes and want to. We're working on it. We're working on it. It's a complicated process because you have to do it right, and people have no idea how complicated it is. Because if you get in a courtroom, they're going to fight you. They're going to tell you, oh, well, there's a factory, and there's a this, and there's that, and you can't really prove anything, and they're going to obscure the issues, so you have to do it right. So, yeah, we're working on it.
I liked your approach to consider suing the EPA, although you mentioned EP something else, another initial, for allowing pollution of our environment. I like that approach. I'm bringing that to Joe Marmon, our attorney's attention tomorrow. I recommend that any members that we have in our group please also participate in Russ's group. We don't own you. We would like your blood. No, blood, hair, urine, rainwater, soil, or air samples submitted to onlyevidence@gmail.com. That would be helpful. If you're in California, you do qualify for participating in the suit. There is a claim form and an advisory letter posted at the top of our page, Chemtrail Geoengineering Lawsuit on Facebook. But in addition to doing that, it doesn't stop there. If you see an active suit elsewhere or potential suit, please join that group or that suit as well. Choose carefully. I know that Russ is on point. We are running at such a slow pace because we are being careful as well. Please consider any group that is doing a lawsuit if they're in a hurry and rushing and trying to get it done. And that might not be a good thing to be involved in. I'm not going to say not to join it, but use your head and always think and consider and weigh out all your options.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
I see. Sorry, I haven't been watching the chat. Sorry about that. I've been kind of just talking and not watching anything that's going on. But I know someone's saying here that they can prove that they aren't shadows. And I just want to let everybody know that I am totally open-minded.
Yeah.
And I'm very dispassionate about truth. And what I mean is I don't really care what it is. I just want to know what it is. So if there is...
I like debunking everything first, before I decide that it's real. So I'm in the process of looking at it myself.
Exactly, and that's what scientists are supposed to. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I've always loved science. I'm a real nerdy guy that reads chemistry textbooks in my spare time. Sorry, maybe that's why I'm not married, huh? Maybe that. Okay, well, anyway. but anyway, if somebody has something they want to show me, and they think that it really does show that there is some kind of dark line, and that dark line is not a shadow, hey, I would love to look at it. I'm just being honest. In my opinion, that every single thing I've seen, you can look at the sun angle, you can look at the shadow, you can see the haze, and every one I've seen in real life, which is many, they've all been just clearly shadows. If you just look carefully and you consider where the sun is, it's a shadow. But I'm open-minded. If you got something to show me, send it to me. I'll take a look.
Russ follows what I consider to be a teachability index, which means that he has a willingness to learn and a willingness to accept change, as I do. Just because we say we disagree or don't think it's real doesn't mean we won't look at something if you have some proof to help us, understand that better. So your opinions matter. We're never going to tell you you're wrong unless we've really, without a doubt, debunked it. At least that's me. But always open to the possibility. If you have something that trumps what I've figured out myself or I'm working on, then I'd love to see it, as would Russ.
Yeah, and everybody who goes through life, everything that we've ever believed that we've changed our mind on, if we look back over our life, we have done that over and over times, over and over. And I realize that, and so I say to myself, I have a belief that is the most probable thing. Based on my observations, and my experiences, here's the most probable reality that I can find. But I'm totally open to anything that opposes it. You can't, it's hard sometimes not to be emotional about it because you want to, about a truth that you find, because sometimes you take pride in it, or sometimes you feel that you found something really important. Right, it might be ego or something, and it's hard. We all have that, and we all deal with it. But you got to keep coming back to zero and saying, I have my opinions, I have my beliefs, but if you don't leave yourself open to accepting that you're wrong, you'll never grow.
Exactly.
So, so that's how I feel about it anyway.
What do you see in that chat? I'm trying to look at it.
Says, is the little hairs or FIOS?
Oh, there we go. That's down in the bottom of your Skype there, Russ. If you've got your Skype chat, there's Hans is placing the questions in there for you to make it easier.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Hans. Hans is the man. Hans works.
Hans is muted. He's blind. He's doing this right now.
Thank you. I'm not that new on all this, but I think you two guys, a lot more of those chemtrails, and to answer all those people who are asking now. So I give you the voice, because you're so
we just started this a couple weeks ago, Russ. We're pretty new at it too, so.
Yeah. Hans and I go back a ways. We've done a lot of things together, and it's been really fun. And Hans is incredibly patient. Yeah, I see how he's smiling. He knows what I'm talking about. I have literally talked 3 hours straight on a couple of his last shows, and he just
4 hours, 5 hours. And the edition on YouTube, when I upload this, there's maybe 3 hours, but the whole thing much longer.
Well, you'll be happy to know, Russ, that Guerrilla Radio on freedomizerradio.com has a show called Guerrilla Radio, and they asked me today if we were willing to do two full hours, so you get to have another 2 hours on the 17th at 9 p.m. Pacific time with Clifford Carnicom, which we're still trying to confirm. It's about 80% chance he'll be on there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get to do your 2 hours there on the 17th on Guerrilla Radio, which can be found on freedomizerradio.com. There's a question from Amy Howell I could see. She said farmers are putting lime in the soil to fix the pH, messing up from the aluminum. Can you expound on that? What do you know about?
Yeah, the aluminum. Yeah, Amy. This is the Amy from our group, probably, right?
Amy Howell. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hi, Amy. How cool to have you on. Yeah, Amy is very vocal about this. She's raising quite a fuss in her local town there, and talking to people, and reporting it to the police, and I hear all kinds of stuff going on, and I respect that. These people need to know about that. So thank you so much for what you do, Amy. We all need to have your kind of passion, and I really appreciate it. The aluminum, I had a dust test done for my air filter, and it showed very high aluminum. aluminum coming up from the California samples, rainwater samples. Dane Wigington, who was in What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Spraying, has said we can repeat those at any time. They continuously can take rain samples and repeat those high aluminum. And so this aluminum gets in the soil, and I believe it alkalinizes the soil. Am I right? I forget, unfortunately, my memory
La
is...
nueva botella de Pepsi está rifadísima, tanto que a 5 de cada 7 los...
the pH nonetheless, and people, the farmers have to use lime to correct the pH. Anybody who wants to check the pH in their soil, they usually can do it. I think there's kits that can do it, or you can send it into, most states have labs that'll do it for $15, some for free, or local universities. And you can get your pH of your soil tested. But also when the pH changes and the aluminum increases in the soils, it stunts the growth of the roots. And the plants don't produce as much fruit. They don't produce as many leaves oftentimes. And I experienced this year in my garden. This is the 3rd year I've been gardening. I've been actually learning how to garden. And my business partner really deserves all the credit because she's the laborer. She goes out there and she does the hard work, and she's just incredible. And this year we had 4 vegetable types die off during really hard spraying. We don't know for sure if it was the heat or the spraying. I don't think it was the heat because I've never had anything die from heat in the last 2 years previously. I don't think that's what did it. It correlated with 2 weeks of intense spraying. They just, for some reason, and this happens once in a while, they have the schedules that go on for months, but sometimes there's little glitches in the schedule where they'll have a week or 2 where they just blast us, and then it'll go back to the schedule. I even experienced this year a week where it was very mild. I had some relatives come up, and it was amazing. It was kind of just a coincidence, but about 2 days before my relatives came up for a week to visit, it just went mild. It was still in the air, but mild. And then the day before they left, it went back. But anyway, so this year in the garden, we had 4 different vegetables. One of them was snow pea pods, which are pretty resilient. They grow very fast. They're big producers, and they're delicious and very nutritious. And I like to grow lots of snow pea pods. And they all died off during that 2 weeks of very heavy, very nasty spraying. Combination of acetone and another type, I don't remember what it was, but they all started dying at the same time. Plus our apple trees, we have a few apple trees. Last year we got 5-gallon buckets full of apples. This year we probably got about 15 apples. And last year we had buckets full. Yeah.
There is somebody in the chat on Ustream, Ann Mum Carey, who's that we're not telling the truth, and she has proof. I would like you to come on to the Skype or the Ustream with us, and let us know what you have that is valid. We would invite that. I would love to have a conversation with you. If you're going to be so vocal in the chat, why don't you come on and let us have a conversation?
Exactly.
I would love that more than anything. I've seen your post, and I am being called what you called us there in the chat. Why don't you come on here since you have proof? I would love to see something that is going to help us win our case. I mean, please bring the information if you have proof.
Exactly. Me too. In fact, on Russ Tanner's Facebook, I also got involved with a message about another guy who was watching the last live stream. I forgot the name, but he even was not threatened, but wishing me that I smoke me to death and whatever. You know, I mean, what I'm doing, or what we are all doing. I mean, we are not government agents. I mean, it's so stupid just thinking on this. I mean, I give chance everybody. I mean, I know a lot of people like you guys. I know Sylvain Henry, and I mean, I don't have any proof that he is a agent or something like this. But if someone says he or she has proofs or any proofs against them or against us or against me, please join the chat. I don't put me offline. This is live, and I really can prove that I am, for example, on my part, I'm doing this from my side out. I don't have any help from governments, because anyway I'm talking against governments, because I don't agree what they're doing to us. So if someone is thinking bad of us, please join and let's talk. I
want to thank Australians Against Chemtrails for asking for the links as well, because they would be happy to publish it if it is true. So anyway, we find that the very ones that call us, provocative agents, whatever, often I think you're just projecting. If you have your proof, instead of saying, I have the proof, why don't you post the proof? Don't waste a post. I mean, shoot, don't waste a valuable space on a page. Put up the proof. I would love to gather that information and research it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And since I do this for free, and out of a passion for what this is all about, and I do take offense. I'll have to give you that. So I hope that makes you feel better. But I'd love to debate live. I have nothing to hide.
Exactly. Neither me.
Yeah, in this last week, I had 2 people come against me. I'm looking at. I banned him from our group because he was lying, and I don't tolerate that. And he sent me this email. I won't give the name. It's probably fake. Anyway, says,
don't give him any fun. Yeah, just
but this person says, "What's up, Russ? Why did you take your Global Skywatch page off Facebook? Got something to hide? Come clean, and I'll leave you alone. The truth is the only way." And I'm just like, come clean about what? I'm sitting here when I could be making money programming and doing other things that my business does. And I'm sitting here trying to expose this stuff. I've had people, I haven't had that many people attack me, but I can think of 4 in the last few months that have actually 5, there's another one I remember, that have come against me and said, you're lying, you're fake, this is not true, you're spreading false information, or even that you're doing something dangerous. You're doing stuff harmful to society and all this garbage.
Endangering others, yeah, there's
and it just amazes me. I mean, to me, this is not a joke. I had a heart attack last year from low potassium because of the barium in chemtrails. There's nothing else functionally wrong with my heart except my potassium was low. I had several incidences in Jamestown where I almost had heart attacks, almost went to the hospital. I drove to the hospital last week because I was having an incident where they were spraying us so hard and my heartbeat was skipping literally about half or a third, or not skipping, but fluttering about half of every minute, every 30 seconds or 20 seconds out of every minute. And my business partner was like 1:30 in the morning, and we drove 45 minutes into Bangor, and I went into and we sat in the waiting room at Eastern Maine Medical Center to see if it was going to go away. I didn't want to check in because I knew that there's going to be $20,000 debt attached to it. And so I'm like, I'm going to sit there and just see, because if I'm going to have a heart attack, I want to be here. So that's what I did. This is no joke to me. I can smell and taste chemtrails, and when the chemtrails get intense, that's when I get the headaches, the heart pain, the muscle pain, the joint pain. My thoughts start racing, which is another symptom of mercury poisoning coming externally, and I could go on and on and on. Chemtrails are deadly real. There's no question in my mind that they're real because I taste them and smell them. And the last thing I will say is that people need to realize that science is a process of observation. When you observe something, oftentimes many of the greatest discoveries that have been made in the world have been because people observed a phenomenon and didn't understand it and then researched it to figure out why did it happen that way that I observed it. When I smell chemtrails, when I taste chemtrails, when I feel the effects of chemtrails, when I see the jets in the sky, those are all senses by which we observe. Eyes are not the only way you observe. You observe by your sense of smell, by your sense of taste, by the other senses that you have. And I observe chemtrails, and every time they spray, every time I smell it and taste it, I get the symptoms. I see people around me change in their behavior. If I'm around children, I see them become ornery, whiny. So I just, I said a minute ago how open I am to new ideas, and I am open to ideas, but nobody's going to tell me that I'm not observing what I'm observing. I am observing some kind of release from the atmosphere that's coming down from these jets, because it always correlates for 5 years over hundreds upon hundreds of incidences that I've stood outside and watched this for hours, and it comes down and I can smell it, taste it, and I feel the effects. I see the effects in other people. And now we've got tests. I've got dust tests. I've got water tests to show that there's stuff in the water and in the air that shouldn't be there. So I'm not particularly open to that particular thing. I know there's something in the air because I'm observing it. I'm smelling it, tasting it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's just always interests me when there's a challenge with no basis behind it. You can say you're wrong because, and here's the reason why I think, versus you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, I think that particular person had sent me some videos saying that a couple other people were phony, or were CIA or something like that. And I watch the videos. Anytime somebody sends me something and they say they've got something, I try to watch it. And both times there were two instances, I believe, if I remember right, two different videos I watched about two different people, maybe, or maybe it was one, and there was an article that this person wrote. I didn't feel that there was enough evidence to really substantiate what this person was saying, and I have no doubt that there are disinformationists. I have personal knowledge through an acquaintance who called me. Maybe I shouldn't call that personal, but somebody called me who had an old Army buddy, and even through politics and political study, that there are people out there who sit behind their rooms with people working for the government, sit behind computers that make fake Facebook accounts, that make fake MySpace accounts, and they make blogs and they spread disinformation purposefully. And so we know that that's going on. It's just that if we're going to call somebody on it, if we're going to accuse that of somebody, we really need to have good evidence.
Well, it's no more valid to say, but like I got the evidence, you're lying. It's no more. To me, it affects me in the manner that I'll explain to you right now. The funniest thing I've been asked is, one of my inbox messages said, "Are you human?" And I had to sit back and go, "That's a question?" So I responded. I had to think about it, and I said, "Well, actually, I'm superhuman, and I have X-ray vision. That's my gift, and I can see that you're naked, and I find it quite distracting. So could you please get dressed next time you message me?" And that's how I get rid of some of those. But as silly as that is just as silly to call names and stuff. We're all not third graders here.
Yeah.
I think the IQs are quite low, very hive-minded people that do that. So anyway, and having a mom suffering from Morgellons, and that's also tied to the chemtrailing or geoengineering. Clifford Carnicom Institute has many documents and scientific studies that do tie these things together. You stand and watch your mother pull out objects that have legs and that are moving out of your skin for 18 months, and you tell me that was your mother. You tell me it's not real. So I have a vested interest in stopping geoengineering, and it's based on my mother, my family member. So I stand very firmly against geoengineering, and I will do everything to stop it. So
that's right, and we all do. We all do, Robert, because every one of our family members, and in fact, somebody on here wrote, if the air is so bad in that area and it causes potassium levels fall, how come not everyone breathing the same air have heart attacks? And this goes right into what you're talking about. We all have a vested interest in this because it's affecting all of us, and it's affecting, your lifespan.
I care about humanity,
Yes.
I care about this world.
The lifespan of every human being is directly proportional to the quantity and the smallness of the size particles that you inhale. This is science. So
whether that's from geoengineering or a factory that you work at, you're saying particles. Right. Okay.
That's right. That's right. And if but the smaller the particles, the faster they shorten your lifespan, and the more numerous the particles, the faster they shorten your lifespan. Well, guess
Una
what?
botella de Pepsi está rifadísima.
In these quantities that we're seeing in these dust tests and these water tests, then how many years have we lost off our lives? So it affects everybody, and you have a vested interest in this question. I'd love to address this question: why isn't everybody falling? All right, why isn't anybody getting sick if it's affecting potassium levels? It is. Let me tell you what happened. When they started spraying Jamestown, New York in 2005, when I first started seeing it on a regular basis. Now, I saw it before then sporadically, but in 2005, I saw it on a scheduled, regular basis. In those 3 years between 2005 and when I moved in 2008, during that 3-year period, more people died than I know in the rest of my life combined and doubled. Okay? People were dropping like flies. Okay? And what blows me away is that people can't put 2 plus 2 together, see all of this stuff in the sky, see all the people who are dying. I had relatives and friends who would send me emails that went something like this: "Oh my God, I can't believe that I've just lost 2 friends in the last week. My God, what is happening? Why is everybody sick?" I've never seen so many people. I received emails like this from people. Now, when I was in the hospital in Maine, when I had my heart attack in 2011, I was in the hospital for 3 days, and the second night I was there, they blasted Bangor. This was an Eastern Maine Medical Center in Bangor, and they blasted us. I had to wear my wet mask, which I actually have right here. This is what I wear. This is a painter's mask from Home Depot. This is what I wear all day long. And this is 2 washcloths that are folded in quarters. And I drop peppermint oil on them, which I have right here.
Okay.
My peppermint oil that I put onto the washcloths to keep them nice and fresh and scented. This is what I wear. The second day I had to wear that washcloth all night because they blasted us. Well, guess what? I had a test that was supposed to take place that evening. I can't remember what time it was, earlier in the evening, 8 o'clock or something. It was a test. The nurse, I had a male nurse that night, and he said, "I'll be back at 15 minutes or whatever it was, and we'll do your test." I'm like, okay, cool. He didn't come back until 5 in the morning. Okay? He didn't come back. I had to call the desk because my IV machine went off like every 15 minutes. I couldn't sleep because it would start doing an alarm, and I would call the desk, and they'd said they sent somebody in. An alarm went off because it was empty, and nobody came. So I rung them again. No, and they're like, "Okay, we'll send somebody. We'll be there as soon as we can." Nobody came. So finally, I started looking at the control panel, and I found a mute button, which muted it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then it would alarm again. Because I was in a room with another guy, and I was also concerned about him. He was having an operation the next day, and here this alarm is going off, and nobody's shutting it off. And so I found a way, and I had to mute it like every 10 or 15 minutes all night long. Finally, at I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like more than 8 hours, or it was some long time later. I've been up all night doing this. I've been wearing my mask because the air is absolutely unbreathable. Horrible that night. The nurse comes back and says, "I am so sorry." He says, "I don't know what happened. It has been crazy. People are having respiratory problems." He said, "Heart attacks. I've been called to other floors. Everybody's been all over." He said, "It's just, it's been one of those nights." He says, "It's just crazy, and I'm sorry I haven't come back. We'll have to reschedule your test, blah, blah, blah." So, and this is just one instance. I've seen people affected. I've seen children affected. We've seen spraying followed by 3-week waits in the pediatrician's offices, and on and on and on. So people are affected. I've seen it firsthand for a long time, and because I can smell and taste it, there's no question in my mind. And one last point, real quick, is that you're talking about why doesn't everybody's potassium levels drop? Some people are more prone to dropping potassium levels than others. If people have high glutathione, they are likely to capture or remove the mercury, barium, or other foreign heavy metals before they get to do as much damage. So their potassium levels will not be nearly as reactive to someone who's high testosterone. I am high testosterone, so I am more vulnerable because my glutathione levels are lower. So you can't just look It's a very simplistic view to look out in the world and say, well, why doesn't everybody, why isn't this? Because people's chemistry are different, the way that their bodies react are different, so it's going to be different among different people. You can't just go up to everyone. I appreciate your question. I respect your question. I want to give you a good answer. I hope that was a good answer. But I do want to explain that when you put the pieces together, it really does make sense.
I have a question from an anonymous person to my inbox, which I believe I can respond to, and I'm sure Russ can expound on. He says, I keep asking my doctors about my skin conditions, and they get weird and placate me. And then they sidetrack me with over-the-counter remedies. When they see the skin, their eyes flash and they change subjects. Doctors know more than they're willing to admit. Yeah, well, he says they're trying to neuter us, hormones. Anyway, from the only direct experience I have to be able to answer this question is that my mom has been to 3 doctors, and she has these sores which are obviously real deal. They're posted on my page. When she goes in and shows them the sores and they identify it, because they do recognize it, a lot of the doctors do know, they keep her at arm's distance. They will not treat the sores she can't reach on her back, nothing. They actually escort her out through the cootie door, where everybody has cooties or infected. And they'll even hold the door, and in 2 cases of the 3 asked her not to touch anything. So you're correct that the doctors in many cases are aware of this, and I think I'm going to start a Facebook page with people that have been shunned by doctors or professionals that have sworn an oath to help the public. When they fail to uphold their oath, I want a list of them, and I'm going to make one, and I'm going to gather that list from other members who share that same interest. The CDC issued a report on the Morgellons, because what you're referencing sounds a little bit like that, most likely. The fact that they even addressed it and submitted a report shows that there's something there. But they said that the people who suffer from Morgellons are delusional. Well, I've got a video up on YouTube. Username is Rob4, Jet, Rob Forgette. Just type that into the YouTube search, and you'll find a video that says chemtrail geoengineering lawsuit, Morgellons victim needs your help. It's a warning graphic, I believe it says too. It's got a symbol of our group, and it'll show a live video and some stills of what she pulls out of her skin in the process, and in her own words, what she goes through for 4 to 6 hours a day. I believe Hans might be able to put that video right up onto the live stream for anyone to review. So yeah, Anonymous, that does happen, and I'm sorry that's happening to you. You just need to find another doctor. The founder of our group would say, find another doctor. But make note of who that was and the date and their name, and I will be making a page shortly to begin exposing this tyranny or this misrepresentation. What do you think when doctors do that, Russ? I mean, isn't that just a sin?
It's really sad. I talk to people about mercury poisoning all the time. In fact, I talked to someone yesterday. I talked to someone the day before. They call me. They want to try to get information and research, and I'm happy to help. And what I find over and over again is that when doctors don't really know the answer to something, that a lot of times they make something up. They'll just say, well, use this pharmaceutical, use that pharmaceutical. A lot of the times if you go in and you claim mercury poisoning, it's becoming less frequent, but in years past they would ridicule you. Some people would get accused of being mentally ill, been watching too many videos on the internet, all this kind of garbage. And And I have one thing to say. I think doctors are very important. I think crisis medicine in the United States is incredible. Of course, it's incredibly expensive, but it's incredible. It's state-of-the-art. They do wonderful things with orthopedic surgery, with organ transplants. But the problem that I have is that there needs to be humility in diagnostics. A doctor has to be willing to say 3 of the most beautiful words you'll ever hear out of a professional person's mouth. And they are, I don't know. And when you hear those 3 words, then you know they're being honest with you. They're humble enough to be honest with you and not waste your time, not point you in a false direction, but to at least let you know that he doesn't have the answer, so you can continue your search without being misled.
Right. And the doctors that fail to behave like human beings and do that, the doctors that are not the good ones. We got your number. I'll take care of that one next. So.
Yeah, there's like a, Robert, there's like a mob mentality sometimes, is that when what mainstream media does is they try to convince the world that everybody is a certain way or believes a certain thing a lot of times, and so it empowers those disinformants or those misinformed people to be more bold. So for instance, colloidal silver. Colloidal silver is my all-time favorite substance in the world. It is absolutely amazing. But mainstream media has continued to show pictures of a guy who turned blue, and his skin turned blue, and said, "Oh, it's because he drank colloidal silver."
That's BS.
Right. That's large particle silver taken in absolutely massive doses. Small particle silver does not deposit under the skin. By
also
definition,
the wrong frequency. It was also at the wrong frequency, I believe that one was.
By definition, colloidal solutions are not large particle solutions. Now, and if you look at the government study that talks about this and says, "Oh, here's our study that shows that this happens," the study is talking about silver nitrate, silver citrate, doesn't say anything about particle sizes. It's not science. It's not science. It reminds me of a study that David Ayub talked about. He has one of my favorite lectures of all time. It's on the Global Skywatch Forum. It's called Depopulation. Let me make sure I get the title right here. Here we go. It's called. Oh, it's actually on. I actually have it on the Orbis Vitae. The Global Depopulation Agenda Documented. Love this. It's a 90-minute lecture. Go to Orbis, O-R-B, like boy, I, Orbis Vitae, V-I-T-A-E, orbisvitae.com, and you can see it up. Go in the forum, and you'll see the Global Depopulation Agenda Documented. He talks about when the FDA, I believe it was, published a study that was done to show that thimerosal in vaccines was safe. And I hope I don't skew this information a little bit. I remember
That's
it
okay.
mostly.
I got your back on this one. Go ahead.
Okay, but the paper that they used as references, there was like 7 references in this paper showing that thimerosal is safe. None of the references had anything. They either had nothing to do with thimerosal, they were there just for show, had nothing to do with it, and one of them, the study concluded that thimerosal was safe because, let me make sure I get this right. It was something, this is how ridiculous it was. It's so ridiculous I can't even recall which ridiculous scenario that it encompassed. But it was something on the order that the study concluded that thimerosal is not toxic because none of the offspring had any birth defects. You know why they didn't have birth defects? Because they all died. And that's not considered a birth defect. That is the kind of reference that was used in this study that was publicized by the government, by the FDA, which is run by the pharmaceutical industry, to show that thimerosal is safe. This is not science. and this I'm sorry to get off on this story, but it relates to what we're talking about and the way doctors treat, is that doctors feel empowered by these kinds of studies, so that when you go in, this kind of bad information, and when they feel empowered, they will be more bold to ridicule you or to belittle you, because they think, well, mainstream media is saying this, so I feel secure. This is public opinion. This is the current medical opinion, so I can, these people are psychotic or this, that, and the other thing, and they get away with it because everybody thinks it's public opinion, but it's not. It's not science. It's based on propaganda, and it's very sad, and very harmful.
I just invited Carly. You know who Carly is, Gnarly Carly. She's the one who comes on and blasts out a half a page of rant, but she's very well researched and studied. I just asked her to join us.
Great. Great.
So, yeah, thimerosal, aka mercury. I read the inserts where it says they remove it, and then a paragraph later they put it back in as a preservative.
Right, or if they say, well, we don't add any thimerosal, but actually mercury is used in the processing of the vaccine, so it's there anyway, without the addition of thimerosal. A lot of people don't realize mercury is used in the preparation of some of the non-live, the non-living vaccines.
Right, non-live attenuated virus.
The attenuated vaccines. So, it's the lies. Lie after lie after lie.
Yeah. It's just interesting. They try and force vaccinations now in different states. creeping in.
Uh-huh.
Well, go ahead.
What's that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, my kids have never been injected. Will never be injected, unless by force, out of my control. But they know to jump the school fence and call me immediately.
Good.
Yeah. So, people who if you don't want your kids vaccinated, you have that right. There is no law, and they will mix the word mandatory, which really translates over to mandate. And a mandate is a suggestion, merely, that your kid must be vaccinated or he'll get other kids sick. Well, your response should be, well, if they have their shots, how can my kid get them sick? And then secondarily, they'll offer you, if you do get that far with the school, they'll give you shot waiver forms. Those are designed to allow CPS to call you a negligent parent, coin you that, and take your kids if they so choose to. Not that they will, but they can. You always go online and download your own vaccine decline form, and you go to the school with that, and they will tell you, we don't accept those. And you tell them again, there's no law stating that you don't accept those. You take this right now. Threaten to put it on the news, even though the media is basically a White House, disinformation outlet anyway. But there are local stations that'll put your story on. The schools don't want that exposure. But you don't. Even when the kids are born, there's no laws stating that they should be able to slurp their blood or inject them with any kind of chemicals. So, my kids are 18 years old, 15, and 13. That's a daughter and two sons, and they're very healthy, very well, and have never had health issues. And I believe they're going to live a long life without this crap in their system.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Maybe I'm a negligent parent. I don't know.
Well, what I have found out, since I don't take the vaccinations, there are some they offer every year, something like this, to don't get the flu. But since I don't take them, I am much better. What I think is they create a problem and then they offer a solution, because normally our bodies have already the how you say, anticuerpos. Our bodies can or they heal us anyway. I mean, it's like a wound. When you have a wound on your a part of your body, you're bleeding, the body takes care of it, it closes it, and some days you're okay.
Body's a miracle. Your
Antibodies, something like this. Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
I mean, exactly. And I read also on Russ Tanner once when I posted that I have the shingles. I had shingles some weeks ago, or 1 or 2 months ago. I lost the time now. But I got a post or an answer, and that person told me what a coincidence, because in her country they were announcing now vaccines against those shingles, and I was researching a little bit about this, and it says there is no medicine or vaccine to avoid the shingles. This is something very normal, because if you got them even when you're a child, you never get rid 100% of this. There's still something in the body, and it gets sometimes out in a stressful situation or something like this, and then you have those shingles again in a part of your body, but it disappears anyway. Okay, it's not that nice feeling, you know. It's burnt like hell, then itchy or whatever, but I really get rid of it. Now I'm perfectly well. I took some medicines because I was in panic, but then I stopped it because the medicine anyways is so expensive, and I got rid of it, you know. So I think we don't need to put that much pills in our bodies, because we are just making more rich those pharmacy companies with this, and we are getting our body is getting or depends on all those medicine. And I mean, it's for my things, it's always better take something natural, like a tea or herbs or whatever that was used thousands of years ago, and we are still alive. The mankind always survived everything. So this is my personal opinion. I don't like anything, or let's say, as less I see a doctor, as better I feel, you know.
Yep. Yep. Problem, reaction, solution.
Yep.
Yeah, the Hegelian dialect, and you know, I believe it was Dr. Tenpenny who published a study. It wasn't a study, but a paper from studies, data collected from studies, that showed that 97% of people who were hospitalized in 2009 with the flu had received the flu shot.
You are correct.
97%. I also have, if you go to Orbis Vitae, or B, like boy, I-S, V-I-T-A-E, means circle of life in Latin, orbisvitae.com. If you go down, you'll see a link that's called Immunization Graphs, Natural Infectious Disease Declines.
Yeah.
This was assembled by Dr. Raymond Bomswin. I can't really say his last name. It's kind of hard for me, but he's a PhD, and he compiled this list of graphs, and I would love, let me see if this will even work. Let me see, this might work. Well, it's going to be too hard. But if somebody goes there and looks at these graphs, you'll see that, for instance, tuberculosis decline between 1880 and 1948 was something on the order of 80%, 90% decline, and then they introduced a vaccine for it. And these are on charts, so you can very easily read it. I'd love people to go check this out, because when you talk about vaccines, they justify them by saying there's a risk-to-benefit ratio, and they talk about this with all pharmaceutical drugs. Say there's a benefit. So even though 30,000 people died from Vioxx, well, we're going to keep it on the market because there's a benefit involved. That's what their claim is, and the claim is the same with vaccines. But if you look at the measles vaccine, you see that the incidence of measles went from 800,000 to about 50,000 between 1935 and 1959. I mean, it declined.
Continually declined.
What is that?
It spiked when they introduced the shots, right?
Well, it didn't spike. It actually,
I mean, a
continued
slight leveling.
That's right. It decreased at a slower rate after the decrease slowed down. It didn't decrease as quickly after they brought in the vaccine. But the disease was at 95% gone, and then they introduced this. And if you go through all these charts, you see this over and over again, where they basically take a disease that has been eliminated by hygiene, by plumbing, by technology, simple basic technology and hygiene, and then they take credit for it. So they're like, we're going to come up with this and say that we cured it because they control the information flow. And then they come out with these claims that we cured this. It's like with shingles. Now, I'm not an expert on shingles, that like Hans was talking about a minute ago, but I believe shingles occurs. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know the facts. I haven't studied shingles, but I think it's occurs in people who didn't have chickenpox as a kid. And that's
it has something to do with chickenpox. It's said that you can get it if you've had chickenpox. I'm not for sure. I read so much I cannot remember, but I know it's related to that.
Yeah, what I've heard is that shingles from my understanding, again, like I can't reference this and I don't.
Right.
But people generally only get shingles if they did not get chickenpox. Getting chickenpox as a kid is generally a good thing, which is why you have these parties where they have kids with chickenpox get together with kids who don't, so that they can get it, that they can actually get it over with in a controlled situation, and then for the rest of their lives they have immunity, and it actually solves a lot of problems. And actually, I would recommend that people get Dr. Tenpenny talks about this in detail in her video that you can get online called the vaccines, the risk benefits and choices. Vaccines, risk benefits, and choices.
Right.
Incredible lecture. Entire lecture is only based on peer-reviewed medical research. If you look at what information is spewed out by mainstream media and compare it to what you see in medical literature, they're in direct opposition to each other. So see the video. People should watch that video. She talks about the whole shingles and why they have measles or chickenpox parties for children to prevent other problems in life, because statistically you'll have other problems as an adult with immunity if you don't get that over with as a child. But again, I don't know all the details, but watch the video. People should watch that video.
I think I attended several of those parties and never caught it until later.
Tough guy.
I don't know. I don't get sick. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I better knock on wood or something. If you notice I'm looking down, I'm just inviting specific people with Hans's username that have information that might be good for this conversation.
Yeah, I also have some funny observations, For example, when I got sick with my flu or whatever it is, I mean, I not even had contact to people because I'm always at home and I don't go out. So I didn't have contact to anyone, but that day when I took a lot of pictures of the chemtrails, then it started. I mean, it's something funny that, well, not so funny, but when you are getting sick, you don't have contact to people, and just in a certain moment, I mean, even if there's a flu, the flu time, because all the people say when it's winter, then there's flu. Why the flu is not all the year? Why always on winter? It's like it's programmed to get activated on winter, or is it getting activated by chemtrails or whatever? I don't know. But it's, I mean,
anything's possible.
Anything is possible, exactly. Because many people, they say, oh, Hans is smoking. This is because of smoking. It's not because of smoking. I smoke more than 30 years, and I normally not have even cough, I mean, now I have it because of the fucking flu.
Not
it's not the cigarette.
Good or my excuse, but they are American spirit. There's the 3,000 chemicals are not in these, but carcinogens and all the other bad stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's my personal choice. It has nothing to do with the aerial spraying that I'm trying to stop. So, I'll breathe what I choose to breathe.
Yep.
You wipe with which hand you choose, and I'll smoke if I choose. How's that?
Exactly.
So that's really the problem with chemtrails, is you don't have a choice.
Right.
In New York, now I want to be honest with you, is I can't stand cigarette smoke.
Right.
Because I'm sensitive. I mean, it makes me kind of swell up in the face. It burns my sinuses. It tastes bad. I just don't like it. And in New York State, when I lived up in Jamestown, during that several-year period I lived there, they banned smoking from all public buildings. Now, as much as I hate cigarette smoke, I was against that ban because I think businesses
La
have
nueva botella de Pepsi es
make their
una
own
chula.
choices. So if a business wants to say, I don't want to allow cigarette smoking, then great. All the people who don't smoke can patronize that business. And if another business wants to say, hey, I allow it, then great. All the people who smoke and don't mind it can go there. And that's up to each individual business. It's not up to the government to dictate, what you can do in your business. If we're going to stand up for liberty, we need to stand up for liberty. Not just because we like something or not like something. Is that, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with chemtrails, we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice. Everybody, and one thing I'll say to people, I mean, I see this all the time here. If you watch television shows, and I watch one or two shows a night while I'm eating dinner, just to relax, and then I go back to work throughout the night. And you'll see the halos around the lights. I've never seen this before, but all the movies, it's incredible, the halos that you can see around lights in movies and in television shows, even commercials. I've seen it in commercials now. Those are the tiny, tiny particulates in the air that your children, actors in Hollywood, that everybody is breathing. Chemtrails don't give you a choice.
Exactly. Good that you talked about those things of the movies and everything. They're even now manipulating old movies with blue skies, and they are putting now chemtrails on those movies.
Cartoons too.
Yeah, and the old ones in cartoons, and the new movies. I don't know if you know that you two or the people who are watching us. I'm an actor also, and I have done a lot of commercials, and I know when you shoot a commercial or a movie, they're going so much into details. Normally you don't shoot a sky which looks bad, but they're now even making movies with chemtrails on it. And I have recently uploaded a new picture on my Facebook wall, the new movie of Star Trek. It's a science fiction movie, but even there are like planes and leaving behind a big chemtrail. I mean, a science fiction movie, they should have the spaceships should have at least engines which don't emit those chemtrails or trails at all, but it's like they want to put us inside our brains that this is all so normal. All generations like you, me, and whatever, we know how skies looked in the past, and we know this is totally different now with the halos and everything. That's totally right. In Mexico, the same. It's like blocked. Everything, the sun is blocked, and it looks so blurry and hazy and everything. But the new generations, the young people from now, the next babies who will get born, they will grow up with those skies, and for them those skies will look normal. They will say, no, it's always like this, but we know that is not always like that.
All the kids
always like this.
The kids have clouds hanging up in the classroom. If you remember that when you're younger, cumulus, cirrus, what is stratocumulus, stratus. And added to those clouds that they get to cut out of paper and hang from the ceiling, like we all had fun doing. That's my cloud. I made that. Is chemtrails too. The kids are taught, there's persistent contrails, and so they don't look up and think anything about it. And it's a sick world, and that even goes hand in hand with being at the Storm Stadium here in Lake Elsinore, where I saw a sign that said reduce carbon dioxide, help reduce carbon dioxide, don't pollute. And it is some sign teaching the kids there that go there that carbon dioxide is a deadly gas, where it's carbon monoxide that is. Why do you think the plants alongside these freeways and long roads that go through the desert are really large near the roadside, and that they taper off to dirt as you get away from the road? Even though the cars are emitting carbon monoxide, they're also emitting carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide allows things to grow. The plants use that to process, right, to oxygen. So little things like that. And we're carbon deficient at this very point in time. And dinosaurs and all those plants were so large because there was so much carbon dioxide in the air at that time. So I would hate to see how small we become over generations without if they try and remove carbon dioxide. I'm not a scientist, but that's my opinion, strictly.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I think people, well, before I say this, I want to say that I've watched the sky all my life. I used to, and I say this over and over again when I talk, but I know there's new people on, and I want to say this, that I've watched the sky all my life. I used to collect pictures of jets. I've traveled the four corners of the United States. I've flown the four corners. I've watched the sky all my life, and I have never, before chemtrails start, ever, not once, ever seen a trail come out of a jet engine. I lived in one of the busiest airspaces in the United States, the Tampa Bay area. I lived on military bases. I've been in drop zones. That's where they parachute in, because I have family members who do parachuting. Zephyrhills, Hills, Florida, if anybody's familiar with it, a big drop zone area. Flown in small planes, flown in big planes, took flight lessons, lived in a family that owned planes, knew doctors who owned planes. Never, ever, once in my life, ever have I seen a trail come out of a jet engine. All the pictures, the thousands of pictures I collected of jets, how many trails are coming from jet engines in all those thousands of pictures that I collected through the years? None. Not one. Today.
Can you explain that in better detail? Because you know what some are going to say.
Yeah, I want to tell because Russ will talk a little bit more. My talk will be very fast. I live like, I don't know, 20 minutes away from the Mexican airport, and this is really one of the biggest airports I ever have seen. And when I take the pictures of when I took the pictures of the chemtrails, you know, there were maybe 3, 4, but the commercial flights, there are thousands, and it's like Russ Tanner told us, they don't leave not even a contrail. I see them also flying the normal planes at the same altitude, because when the sky's a little bit hazy but clear, that you can see the planes, and those planes, they don't do it. There's special airplanes who are doing this, and those are not the commercial ones, because if this would be normal, that they are trails, the whole sky would look of thousands of some, because Mexico City has a lot of planes coming in and coming out. So this is my part of this. That also, when you think on the wars, I mean, when there's a jet in a war zone, the enemies, they could localize the jet so fast, or like those stealth bombers. Imagine they make them invisible, but you see the trail. No, I don't think that there exists any contrail. Sorry. Okay, Russ, now you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I, you know, all these years that I've watched the sky, and by a sky watcher, I'm not trying to say that I was some guy who casually looked up. I was the guy who, when I flew as a child, I always wanted the window seat, and I didn't play games, I didn't play chess, I didn't read magazines. I watched out the window the entire time.
Yeah, me too.
I was very shy because of the mercury toxicity. I was always looking up. I wasn't usually engaged in the conversations. I was looking up at the sky. And so, I mean, I was kind of an extreme sky watcher, if there was such a thing. Now, the only thing that you might see in terms of a contrail, if you ever see a contrail, it's going to happen under very specific conditions. It's going to be negative 40 degrees or colder, and it's going to be, 70% humidity or higher, if I remember. I don't know if I have the terms right, but it's a very rare condition. You don't have high humidity in very cold situations. Like here in Maine, for instance, when the air, I have a thermometer, and right here on my computer speaker, there's a thermometer and a humidity. Tells you what the temperature is and what the humidity is. Right here on my speaker, all the time. When the temperature outside gets below freezing, all of a sudden, every time you walk around the house and you flip a switch on or off, when there's a metal plate, you get shocked.
Yeah.
And the reason is because the humidity in the air drops because it's too cold to sustain the moisture. So what happens is it's a very rare condition that you have high humidity and low temperatures. This is the reason why most people have never ever seen a contrail, because the conditions for contrails are very rare. I actually have a picture on one of my articles that I wrote about this. And in fact, maybe I'll post it in the chat, which is a picture of a real contrail. It's not even at high altitude. This is a rare sight.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can. Let me see if I have it on here, and I'll post it here. And I'll tell you why. Here it is. I actually wrote a little short article that says a picture of an actual contrail. Here it is. I'm going to copy it into the Ustream chat here. And if anybody isn't on the Ustream, I guess everybody's on the Ustream chat because that's how you watch this.
Yeah.
So everybody's there. That picture I just posted, you'll see a contrail coming off the back of a wing. Let me explain what's going on here. And this is not at high altitude. So this is a rare condition. But this is something you may see. And first thing you're going to notice is this thing's only about, I don't know, 8-10 feet long, 12 feet long. You know, that's it. It's not real long. You're not gonna see. It's not real long. So what's happening here is in high school, some people have done experiments, maybe in their science class, in elementary school science class, and we did it, where you take a big thick glass jar and you put it on a rubber base and you suck the air out of it. And what happens is that you create a partial vacuum in there. And what will happen is you'll see moisture condense. It'll be like a little bit of a cloud in there. And what happens is because the air pressure gets low, the moisture... because the air pressure is low, the moisture can no longer be sustained by the air, so it begins to condense. And then you hit a button and all the air rushes back into that jar in just a second, and guess what happens to that? Guess what happens to that that little cloud? It disappears immediately. Now, if you look at this picture of a real contrail coming off the end of a jet wing, hey Maria, if you can hear us, if you could mute your microphone on Skype, that'd be awesome for a second, and then we'll.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks, Maria.
Maria,
Give me 1 second.
I sent you an upgrade, Maria. You need to use the upgrade I sent you. Go ahead, Russ. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Maria. Appreciate that. This picture that you see at the end of the wing, you see this 10-foot long, maybe 12-foot long trail with just a little bit of condensation. What happens is you're looking at a wing that has flaps down, and so there's a vacuum zone behind the wing, and that vacuum zone only lasts for 10, 15 feet, something like that. And so you're seeing where the water condenses in that vacuum zone really quickly. The air pressure is so low that it can no longer sustain the water. And just 10 feet later, I'm looking at the picture on my screen right now, 10 feet later, the pressure's back up and the water condensation disappears because it dissipates back into the pressure of the air. The air is now able to sustain it. So there's a contrail for you. Does that look, first of all, it's not coming from an engine. It's coming from a wing. So that's my experience that I want to share with people about contrails as an extreme sky watcher.
Yep.
Good. That's a great explanation. That's better than the one from yesterday's call or the day before.
Okay.
Very good.
I have Maria here. She called in. So hello, Maria.
Maria is our lead moderator from Lawsuit.
Okay. Okay.
Hi,
go
how
ahead,
are
guys.
you?
Fine. You're here online.
I'm getting a ringing. Hold on.
Yeah, Maria, there's an upgrade link you received. You need to upgrade and close and reopen Skype.
Okay, hold on. Having issues here.
Right, just close Skype, upgrade, and then come back. Okay. My Facebook inbox is lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd rather not, but I got to communicate, so.
Yeah.
La nueva botella de Pepsi está rifadísima.
40 plus messages here in the last 30 minutes.
Jeez.
Yeah, this is a light night.
Wow.
Anyway, I like your explanation on the formation or the contrail out of the plane.
Well, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to this, and This is the conspiracy, and I call it a conspiracy because it is a conspiracy. It's a group of people working together to misinform your children and misinform the public. And I believe this was the plan from the very beginning. Is what they were going to do is re-educate the public that short trails were contrails, so they're harmless water vapor. That's what they want the public to believe. But in Jamestown, New York, I saw when, after a 4-day break of spraying, those long continuous trails that covered the sky, suddenly, overnight, after a 4-day break, were all short trails. They were the same silver, unmarked jets. They flew on the same schedule, and when they flew, 30 to 40 minutes later, they smell, taste the metal, and have all of the physical symptoms that they caused. So there was no change in symptoms, but the look of the trails was very different. In Bangor, Maine, in 2010, I believe it was, the same thing happened. For 2 years, they were covering the sky. They would come on a schedule and cover the sky, blanket the sky with this stuff until it was overcast. In fact, the Bangor Globe did an article about the dimming, and they said Bangor is on the brink of having the dimmest summer in history, in recorded history. And everybody's scratching their head saying, gee, what's going on? The weather's crazy. It's not the weather. It's the jets. It's the trails. Anyone who looks outside and would watch for a few hours, you would see the trails come down and spread out. Well, what happened in 2010? Overnight, the long trails became short, non-persistent trails. They smell the same. They're coming from the same unmarked jets. They cause the same physical symptoms. They fly the same schedules, but now they're all short, except a few days a month. There's long again, and I think they do that because if they got rid of all the long trails forever, then people might get a little suspicious. So they kind of have to leave the long ones there a couple days a month, 3 or 4 days a month. But overnight, it went from blanking the sky with long persistent trails to suddenly having short non-persistent trails, but nothing else changed. This is obviously, clearly a ploy to make people not notice what's going on in the sky as much, while teaching them that these are harmless contrails. Now they're teaching them to the children. So children will grow up, they won't even experience what it's like to clean, breathe air. Their lifespans are shortened, which is part of depopulation. I mean, if you just look at the results of what they're doing, we can speculate about what they're doing, and we have a lot of documentation to back it up. But even if you don't want to look at the documentation, what is the net effect of geoengineering or spraying chemtrails, whatever you want to call it? The net effect is shorter lifespans. We know that from science because your lifespan is directly associated with the smallness and the quantity of the particles you breathe. So depopulation is a result of chemtrails. Whether you believe it's intentional or not, that is scientifically established as a result of breathing a higher number of smaller particles.
Got it. That's exactly right. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. What is it? 4 in the morning here. You're on the East Coast. It's 4:01 in the morning here in the East Coast. Yeah.
Mexico, 3 a.m. exactly.
we got you from 2
Yep.
a.m. On Monday the 17th, so get your rest on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem there.
Although Clifford will probably do most of the speaking there. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, pretty good. That was a great interview with him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very good. He's very easy to interview because he gives very complete answers. He's very concise or precise in his answers. So he made my job pretty easy.
Yeah, I was listening. Yeah, he's very careful and studied his answers. Hans.
Yep.
What do you know about energy?
Energy, what energy? Tesla energy?
Human energy.
Sorry?
What do you know, Russ? Human energy.
The human energy. It depends on us, right?
Connections. You cover any of that stuff?
Not something I study too much. If you're talking about the more, I don't know what you'd call it. Aside from adrenal and thyroid energy, I don't study the energy too much. No, not my field.
Okay.
Lumps.
And Both Natasha and Kimberly, I'm sorry, Natasha and Kirsten from our group are attempting to get into the Skype and join and bring to the table some other stuff too.
There's a couple questions here in the chat too.
Oh, great, because I can't see them. I'm trying.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Oh. Okay, well, the first question I see here is, my ears are ringing a lot and anxiety was bad too. Does anyone else get weird anxiety from this? All right, now, this is the kind of question I love.
I'll follow you on that one. I'll follow you on that one. Go ahead.
All right. Let me just say this, and you're not going to hear this from a lot of other sources unless you do a lot of deep research, because it's hard to find. I said this earlier. I believe that there are 2 chemtrail types that contain mercury, based on symptoms, based on soil studies, and some other things. That there are. Okay.
He has commercials that come up automatically.
Oh, okay.
I like it. Commercials, Hecho in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, is it on your screen? I don't actually see a commercial on my
No,
feed.
it's an audible one. Go ahead. Go back to. I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to not be heard.
No, I appreciate that. Is it all done?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that at least 2 chemtrail types contain mercury. And I went on earlier, I don't know, about an hour and a half ago about that, kind of in detail about why I believe that specifically. I feel pretty strongly about that. This question was, my ears were ringing a lot, anxiety was bad too. Does anybody else get weird anxiety from this? Mercury causes a lot of emotional issues. And I believe that chemtrails, at least 2 of the most popular or most often sprayed chemtrail types, contain mercury. Mercury, in my experience and in the experience of many people I've spoken to, causes depression, anxiety, panic attacks, ringing in the ears, racing thoughts, the inability to concentrate, the inability to reach deep sleep, very vivid dreams, hyperactivity, you can't calm down, and it causes a myriad of fears like jealousy, paranoia, can cause dementia, of course, and anything related in fear. So suspicion, phobias, fear, like I had fear of public speaking, I had fear of confrontation when I was younger, I had very low self-esteem, depression. It makes little problems you run into throughout a normal day look like mountains. It just makes everything feel insurmountable. It makes you feel like you're not in control. It can cause suicidal thoughts, something I lived with throughout my childhood as a result that vanished completely. All of these things are symptoms that I have found in my research and my experience of mercury poisoning, including ringing in the ears. My ringing in the ears got worse and worse, and when you have mercury poisoning, they describe it as your bucket being full. In other words, you can have vaccines, you can have amalgam fillings, and you can live a fairly normal life. You may have a few little interesting problems here and there, but nothing that you really think much about. And then you reach a point where your body keeps absorbing, but it comes to a point where your body can no longer absorb the mercury. This is called stage 3 by Hal Huggins. When you reach stage 3 mercury poisoning, this is when your tissues can no longer absorb the mercury, so it begins to spill over chronically into your blood. This is what I believe happened to me in 1995. Between 1995 and 2000, this is called your bucket is full. Your ability to absorb the mercury has become saturated, and you can't absorb it. So between 1995 and 2000, my mercury symptoms just skyrocketed. I had them all my life, and they were mild and much fewer, but between that 5 years, they just exploded, and I wondered what was wrong with me. One of the symptoms, I'm answering this question here, is ringing in the ears. People say, we don't know what causes ringing in the ears. I believe this is what's happening. I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe, treat, diagnose, cure symptoms, conditions, or diseases. This is my theory based on my own research. Mercury acts as an acidic toxin to your nervous system. It actually triggers cells. Now, in your ear, you have these little hairs that pick up the vibrations of sound. And when they vibrate, these hairs go into cells that convert that vibration into electrical signals. Those electrical signals are fed by nerves, which are your electrical wires, essentially, into your brain, which interprets them as sound. What happens, I believe, is that mercury is an excitotoxin to those cells and starts firing those cells. So they start causing this ringing sound, and you'll hear a high frequency ringing, several high frequencies, usually together, but you may not be able to differentiate them because they're close together. As they continue, if those nerve cells are stimulated with mercury acting as excitotoxin too long, the cells will die. And so eventually, over a period of years, this leads to deafness. This is why, in my opinion, that you have elderly people who get dentures. And after they get the dentures, they start having dementia, they go into Alzheimer's, they have ringing in their ear, and they start going deaf. Why? Because the red coloring, can you all still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The red coloring, oh great, thank you guys. Red coloring in dentures often contains cadmium sulfite and mercury. Mercury is mined by the red ore called cinnabar. And that red ore is used, historically has been used as a red coloring in some lipsticks, in some tattoo inks, in red dentures, and even in, I guess it was decades ago, they had mercurochrome. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a substance you would put on as an antiseptic on cuts and stuff, and it was pink in color. That was the mercury. So you have this mercury associated with red colorings. So you have these people who get dentures, and they start having all of these symptoms of ringing in the ears, and even fears, phobias, and a lot of times, Alzheimer's is very associated with fears. They get very afraid of, who's in the room and what are they doing and where am I, and all of this fear is associated. People think it's just psychological. I don't think it's psychological at all. I think it is chemical. It is chemical. And what happens is, the way we can tell is, if you remove the dentures, do people better? Well, yes, they do. In fact, it's called sundowning. When you remove, they remove their dentures for a period of time, they show improvement, then they put them back in and they decline. And amazingly, medical science hasn't figured this out in all of these decades. And it's just, I believe that that's what causes ringing in the ears. And again, not a doctor, don't do any of the things doctors do, but in my research and my experience, that's what causes tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, and all of those emotional fears, phobias that I spoke about also, to answer that question. Sorry, it was a long answer, but that's, I think that mercury is at the root of those problems. 24 hours after I had my amalgam fillings removed in July 2000, my intense ringing in my ears, which I had since childhood and never ever stopped, was 100% gone. And in July of 2000 and 2005, I had 5 years of silence that I have never ever known before.
Well, and then to address the question that I cannot see, I don't understand, is personally, this is just me, my ears have rang since February 3rd, and it sounds just like an old TV set tubes that you used to hear back in the 70s, if you're that old. And that's a level of 3. Bump that up to 10. I hear it over everything, constantly, 24 hours a day. I wake up to it, I go to bed to it. Again, engine on in the car, windows down, on the freeway, traffic, radio on.
La nueva botella sí está rifadísima.
All that. It's a constant ringing. And the only place I did not hear the ringing was when I was in Hawaii. I don't know why. I was in Hawaii for a week recently, and not one bit of ringing until I landed back in LAX again. So Do I have mercury fillings? Yes. They are, my top and bottom teeth in the back all have mercury fillings or amalgam fillings. Some of the teeth are cracked, broken off in part of them, so the mercury on the sides are exposed, so maybe that's the
I could give you a couple ideas of why that might have been,
why.
if you want. Just a couple
Expand
suggestions.
and contract hot and cold food, or what?
Well, chewing gum. Are you chewing gum right now?
No.
No? Okay, just checking. Had an employee, when I was in Jamestown, we had an employee, and she had a lot of mercury symptoms, a mouthful of fillings, and she couldn't afford to have them out. So I said,
Right.
tell you what, she chewed gum all the time. So stop chewing gum, see what happens. The next day, she was like, oh my God. She goes, 80% of my symptoms are gone. And they stayed gone. Then she went back on chewing, and they all came back. She stopped chewing gum. They went 80% away. Did not completely away, 80% away. So when you abrase those fillings, or when you drink hot substances, the amount of mercury that comes off them increases dramatically. The other thing, on a completely different note, that may be causing high frequencies, may be related to HARP. A lot of people talk about HARP. I hear HARP is a very low frequency hum that's kind of in the center of my head.
ULM. Ultra low frequency.
Yes, it's as if the sound of HARP to me is as if I'm laying my forehead against something vibrating, like a refrigerator or an electric motor, and it just, you hear that low frequency and you're right in the middle of your head. That's what HARP sounds like to me. And anyway, so that's a possibility for the ringing. You went to Hawaii and it went away, you said.
Yeah, which is weird. It just totally trumps everything I'm thinking. I'm trying.
Well, another
Maybe I
possibility
was
is
just so happy that I forgot.
well, maybe one possibility is that maybe they weren't spraying the mercury type. Maybe your body is still capable. If you're not having horrible symptoms, your body's still capable. Your bucket's not full yet. Your
I eat
body's still
organic.
absorbing.
I eat all organic. I'll eat all organic, or I don't eat it all. So very
Okay,
rarely.
and
I get sick if I eat the regular food.
Okay, and possibly when you went to Hawaii, maybe they were not spraying the mercury type chemtrails. Maybe they were just spraying the aluminum and barium types, maybe, perhaps?
Only 2 days they did spray. They do spray lower there, maybe so it hits the island. I don't know. I don't know why. But yeah, but I do have, like I said, matching fillings top and bottom. I had a stepfather that was a dentist who hated me when I was 7 and 8 years old, and he would jam that needle into my gums and stare me in the eyes while he did it, and throw my teeth out.
Oh.
And put these fillings in. So cruel and unusual punishment. But now the teeth crack away on the sides and it exposes that filling. So probably something like that.
Something. There's an explanation somewhere. And, yeah. There's another question in there too, but I'll shut up for a little bit if anybody else wants to talk. I've been talking an awful lot. And,
go ahead. I'll find my spot.
Well, just butt in. Just butt in. I don't want to.
I'm hoping Maria makes it in.
Yeah, there's Maria here. Maria, are you
Hello?
okay? No.
I guess
Yes?
I guess we get to talk to Maria the Silhouette.
Okay.
Hi.
That's okay.
Hello.
Russ is follow up.
Hello?
We hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Are you doing this on your phone, Natasha?
Yes, I am.
Maria?
And it's being very difficult with me.
Don't you have a computer there?
No, I don't have Skype on my computer.
Okay.
And I don't know why it is doing what it's doing, but go ahead.
It's okay. You sound great. So, and you look like I always thought you looked.
Thank you.
Yeah.
White.
You've found a lot of information for the group and passed it through the back door to us.
Yes.
You can cover a lot of those topics. I will definitely interrupt you if it's something I don't want you mentioning out on this call. But go
Okay.
ahead. got some stuff you found, so just speak freely.
It's more on the governmental side and aspect of it, and their projects that are going on.
Okay.
And a lot of it is done to control and own the weather, and what they do is they sell it to clients. There's also insurance companies that are involved in this, as well as the stock market. Your weather is traded on the commodities exchange in Chicago, on the stock exchange, and a lot of people are making money on this. And Hans actually had a pilot with Russ doing an interview a couple days ago or a week ago, and he admittedly said, yes, insurance companies are doing weather modification. And the funny thing that he had said about that was that he said if there's a hailstorm coming in and that insurance company wants to break it up so it doesn't cause damage for potential claims down the line, they'll modify the storm. Well, what he didn't say was insurance companies don't cover acts of God.
Right.
Which is really funny. That's a federal supplemental insurance. So, with that said, they are not breaking up storms. They are creating the storms. So, it's how would I say, a very tangled web. But a lot of it is government. Like I said, it's Air Force. I know that Vandenberg adopted it. I believe it was in '94.
I was born there.
Made it. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and also all branches of the military and Department of Defense are involved in it. I know that there's a lot of other projects that are involved with this that I don't know much about those projects. But it's basically owning the weather, and it's also for advancement of warfare, which is strictly prohibited. So they're violating so many levels, it's ridiculous. And they're experimenting on us, and it's not right. And, when does it stop? And that's why I'm hoping that this lawsuit will start touching on some of that and getting one by one and level by level to stop. Because it's just not right. As far as like detailed going into what I have found, some of it I can't understand, and I know that the stock exchange also has been notified about trading the weather on the stock exchange, and how they create the weather so that people can make a lot of money off of it. And it's not right. People lose their homes, people lose their lives, farms, crops, everything's lost because somebody wants to make $1 on a storm. And it's
a lot of dollars. It's a lot of
dollars. Yeah, it's not one or two. It's a lot of dollars. And it's continuing, and it has to stop. It's illegal. It's unethical. It's immoral, and it needs to stop. These people need to be stopped.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you referencing
exactly.
Are you referencing the owning the weather by 2025 right now?
The owning 2025, that is another project. The first one is the Department of Defense also has another program besides the owning the weather in 2025, but that is also their objective in that project as well.
Is that one public? Is that one public information? Did you get that?
I did get it on public domain. I don't know if it was laying out there waiting for somebody to look for it, or if it was something that wasn't supposed to be found. I don't know, but I did find it.
Okay. Well, do you know a little bit about it?
Let me see. In detail, no, because it's a lot of info, and I just know that all parts of the Department of Defense are involved in it. And if I can find it, I can share it with you, but I don't know if I have a copy of it with me, but no, I haven't like memorized it. It's tons and tons of here. I do have it with me here.
I knew you would. That's why you do what you do.
Let's see.
Maria, anything that you found that wasn't directly from the internet, don't bring that up, please.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's just say it's a lot of governmental and Department of Defense, how should I say it, experiments and projects.
Well, if it was on the internet, bring it. Let's go. Do it.
Okay, let's see. Whew. There's a lot of you know, for analyzing and forecasting the weather. A lot of it has to do with satellite. Oh my goodness. There's such technical verbiage on here that I don't know how to read through.
Did you get this?
Prediction. Let me see. There's an interesting little part that says where they do want to own the weather.
Is this something you submitted, right? This is something you gave me?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Like I said, I don't know if I really want to go over it in detail. It might be better that I didn't. But
okay.
Just, you know, it is all departments of Department of Defense. So if one is saying, no, we're unaware of any of this going on, as the Department of Defense likes to do, they're lying, because it's all in black and white. They do know what's going on. Every branch does. So, yeah, as far as going into detail, yeah, probably better off not going into too much detail. But they are governmental projects also.
You seen anything flying around in the sky lately? I know you run into that kind of stuff.
The drones?
Yeah, drones are the three-letter word that we can't use in the group. But here we can, because Hans says we can talk about anything.
The UFOs?
Yeah, there you go. I can't say that, but go ahead.
Actually, yeah, well, I don't know if they're UFOs, but I did have a picture that was taken on Saturday where I don't know if it was the sun, I don't know if it was the moon, I can't tell you what it was. And I had a picture, somebody take a picture from my house at that same time, and there is clearly something flying right under the sun, and it's white and it looks like a small moon.
Oh, the picture I told you wasn't what you said it was, just because I like messing with you?
Yeah. But yeah, underneath the sun, where it's actually the sun and you know it's the sun, there's a little white, you said it was an orb.
No, you did not. Never did that.
Yeah, but it was, no, I know you were joking with me, but you know, it was, it looks clearly like another moon, planet, UFO, you could say whatever it is, but it's pretty clear in that picture, and it's in two different locations on two different snapshots. So yeah, I do see things frequently.
I saw that. There are two different areas. It wasn't a lens thing, you guys.
No.
Yeah, I see plenty of them with the lens, the polarized lens. I'm like, I just go, oh. But this one was definitely unique. You've got some great pictures.
Yeah, yeah, I see stuff on the regular, and yeah, drones are a common flyby. Today I took a picture of one, and there's one up on my Facebook. We make them nearby where I work, about a good 10 miles away from me, and before I even knew what they were, I'd call them little bullets in the sky, because I didn't know what they were until, you know, recently I discovered what they were. We all agreed, yes, those are drones. So yeah, I see them, and today it almost collided with an airplane. So yeah, it went right under the tail end of a big airplane, very, very close underneath, and it was low. So yeah,
La nueva
there's a
botella
lot
de
going
Pepsi
on.
es una
A lot of
chulada.
helicopter
Tanto
activity.
que 5.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of helicopter activity also, 24/7, black helicopters that are flying over. I don't know what they are. I had heavy activity near my work all day today with spotlights and circling. There's definitely a lot of activity going on. A lot of activity. So, yeah, don't know if it's heightening towards the whole